G'day everyone. Welcome to episode number 20 of the Cold-Blooded Contributions podcast. The Cold-Blooded Contributions podcast is proudly sponsored by Midwest Tongs. For over 40 years, the Midwest Tongs team has provided the highest quality snake handling tools made in the USA. Made by professionals for professionals. We're your hosts, the Ipers. I'm Ty Iper, and with me is my husband, Scott Iper. This podcast will bring to you people in the hobby who have made an impact on us creatively, be it artistically, with data, or improved our husbandry. Today, we are stoked to have with us Dan Mangano and Sarah Bright. How are you guys?
Good, thanks.
That's good. Do you guys want to tell the listeners a bit about yourselves?
I have been keeping reptiles and other wildlife privately for about maybe 20, 21 years now, since I was very, very young. I'm also, I'm qualified as a zoologist. I've worked doing wildlife demonstrations for a majority of my adult life. I'm not currently doing them, but we'll be getting back into them soon, hopefully. And I'm also a touring musician.
Nice.
Amazing.
Sarah?
Yeah, I work as an animal keeper, and I've got a bachelor in animal science, so that's exciting.
So you said you got a bachelor in animal science, Sarah. Where did you get your bachelor's degree?
At La Trobe. I'm doing a master's there at the moment too.
Fantastic. What are you doing your master's on?
Not on animals, sort of.
That's okay.
On Drosophila, on genetics.
Excellent. Okay.
Nice. Cool. Well, I'm well out of this talk already.
That's all right. What about yourself, Dan? Where did you do? You said you did batch.
No, we've both did the same course. I think most people that are working as demos and stuff in here all seem to have done the Bachelor of Animal and Veterinary Bioscience at La Trobe. It was
it's either that or the one out of Deakin, the wildlife ecology one.
Yeah. They're the two main ones. I mean, the whole point of the course that we did really is to kind of get people into postgrad vet, but I had no intention of being a vet, and I was like, this seems to be the easiest way to say I'm a zoologist, and it was less than 10 kilometres from my house, so it all came up Millhouse for that one.
Nice. So where did you guys grow up, and do you think that's affected who you are today?
I grew up in the northern suburbs of Melbourne. I think I'm fairly affected by it.
I resent that remark. I don't think growing up in Melbourne's a problem at all, other than a fucking high disposal for the weather and not liking very much.
That's why you all fucking migrate up here.
Yeah, 100%. That's why we moved to Queensland. Every herper in Victoria talks about either moving to Queensland or looking to move to Queensland, or they have moved to Queensland.
No, that's fair. No, see, look, I like when I was really young, I lived really close to Darebin Creek.
Mm-hmm.
So, we had interesting wildlife around. And, originally it was me chasing garden skinks around the backyard, which we've kind of come full circle. I got to see heaps of bird life even. We had lots of raptors and other interesting amphibians and stuff around all the time. And then when I became a teenager, I moved up further north to South Moraine, and we were directly across the road from Plenty Gorge.
Yeah.
So Plenty Gorge is just this wonderful place where the kind of that volcanic basalt grassland kind of thing slams into the almost like the temperate foresty thing that goes through eastern Melbourne. And so you get this great mix of species where you're walking along a grassland and there's Cunninghams and Jackies and all those kinds of species. And then you walk downhill towards a river and suddenly there's bell miners and platypus and
Tell me, have you ever seen a red belly there?
No.
Because it's the only spot in Melbourne that they reckon they're natural, I suppose, naturally sort of occurring. Possibly there and down at Langwarren as well, at the back of Frank.
I've seen them at Langwarren.
I've seen them down there as well.
But in the gorge, I've never seen red bellies. I mean, I've spent more time in the northern part of the gorge up towards Mernda and stuff like that. So closer to King Lake and stuff where you think they'd be coming down the corridor and trying to, go in there. And there's weird animals that pop up in the gorge.
So I reckon, the copperheads are out competing them, mate.
Yeah,
Or
well,
the
there's
copperheads just smoke them, they eat them, and there's not many red bellies there for them to really get a foothold. Whereas there's plenty of copperheads, and I think as copperheads come across them, they seem to do a little bit better, and they beat them out. And so because they're extra liminal anyway, they get that to there.
No, fair, and there's some absolute honker copperheads in there as well. So, yeah, I reckon you're onto it there. But no, I've never seen a red belly. I've seen people claim that they catch red bellies around there all the time, but no, I've never seen one around there.
Oh, there is legitimate records, like by proper herpers as well, that have turned them up there. They're just so thin on the ground, and you know, when I was a snake catcher 25 years ago in Victoria, maybe fucking a lot longer than that now thinking about it. But when I was catching snakes in Vic, every year I get 2 or 3 red bellies on call outs. But it'd be places like Burwood or Camberwell or Malvern or whatever, right? So obviously translocations.
Yeah.
But you know, the only other place that you get them where they're naturalised is sort of Langwarren and now at the back of Frankston and all that sort of stuff. So.
Yeah. No,
Cool.
I can't say I've seen any around. I mean, look, I'd go down there and have a look. I'm guessing down towards the lower parts in the river and stuff, you're probably more likely to get them than up the top there, but it'd be worth a squeeze.
Yeah, for sure. So how did you guys get into reptiles?
I came via other animals. I started with more of an interest in birds, and after having
feathered reptiles.
Basically, yeah. And after having some, parrots and things, as when I was younger, I eventually one day just started looking at other weird things, and I very briefly tried keeping axolotl, and they are. If I never keep one again, I'll be happy. But then when that went tits up after about 3 months, I had a spare tank and stuff, and my folks said, "Have you thought about picking up a blue tongue or having a look at that sort of thing?" And I came home with a shingleback, and that was it.
Cool.
And, since then, just as my interests have changed, I've gotten into keeping different things, and my passion for the most part is wildlife that is Australian. It doesn't matter. Reptiles has always been one of the main kind of focuses, but birds, bugs, mammals, anything.
Cool.
What about you, Sarah?
I actually did a placement at like a wildlife demonstrator company during uni, and I went in and I was a bit nervous about everything. Honestly, I was fucking terrified of it. And then just as I sort of worked with the animals, got to know them, I'm like, do you know what, they're really cute. And now I live in a zoo, so.
It gets like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, particularly because he'll have like a new hyperfixation and he's like, oh, I'm really into frogs. And then we suddenly have 7 species of frogs.
No judgment whatsoever.
So you worked at a demo company. What was making you so nervous about that? Was it getting on stage and talking in front of the people, or was it just having to deal with the big personalities that are frequent in the wildlife demonstration business?
I didn't do any of the demonstrating. I'm terrible at public speaking. I'm like shaking the whole time right now. It's great. No.
Hey, there's only just you and I, Dan, Ty, and everyone else that's online forever. So nothing to worry about.
Sarah, you saw me at the VHS. I did what I did and I ran off stage. Like, no judgment. It's not easy, eh?
In all seriousness, though, right? It's anyone that knocks anyone for giving this sort of stuff a crack really needs to pull their heads out their ass, because it is a tough gig. It's not the easiest thing to do. It all looks easy if you're sitting behind the camera, if you're sitting behind the screen at home watching on. It is a bit of a testament, and we appreciate to all of our guests that have come on and taken that plunge. We appreciate you guys, because at the end of the day, we couldn't have a podcast if it was just me and Ty talking. I don't think anyone would want to listen.
No, we'd start arguing after about 10 minutes.
That's it. Anyway, so you did you're doing the what was making you nervous then doing the demos?
Oh, the animals. I was shit scared of them. I didn't want to pick up like even stick insects at first. Honestly, I still don't like their little grabby hands. But But like I was just like too scared to put my hands in with like the shinglebacks or anything because I was worried everything would bite me. But then like as I was there, and it's just like, you know, you just sort of get to learn more about the animals and their behaviors and everything, and you're just like, oh, okay, that's not actually scary because it becomes like a little bit predictable. It's more like you've got information, so it's not unknown, and if you know something, it's better. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
I think there's always a bit of caution around anything that you don't really know as well. So
And even,
healthy caution's good working in the animal industry, to be fair.
definitely.
And after you've copped a bite from said species, it's a healthy respect.
Yeah, or no respect at all after that, and you sort of go, oh, actually, that's not too bad at all. I'll just cop that next time. It'll be fine. So,
Yeah. I went through that briefly, and then I got a couple of bites from things that I didn't think were going to hurt that hurt a lot. And kind of like, I think I need to pull my head in on this. But
I've been bit by a lot of things that really hurt, and yeah, I don't want to go down that road again. But the one thing that really make me nervous is king skinks.
I was just going to say
absolutely.
The worst bite I've ever had was by a king skink. I've still got the scar. It like ripped my finger open, fat and everything was hanging out.
Yeah.
And then I think it was a week later on Facebook, this chick's got her king skink up going, isn't he friendly? And I thought, fuck, I'd lose half my face. Like,
no. Yeah, no. I worked for Jurassic Jungle, the reptile shop down here, the breeding facility for about a year and a half, and there was one of those black form king skinks that and I was cleaning stuff out, and I caught him. It was first thing in the morning. I hadn't warmed up yet. I wasn't, it's not a shingleback. I went in knowing what I was going to deal with, because I've had Cunninghams and stuff at home for years, and they're somewhere between moderate and bad. And the way the king skink was looking at me, like a Gurnia side eye is a hell of a warning. And I got it out, chucked in the tub, cleaned everything out. When I went to get it back into the tank, at the last second, it whipped around and missed me by about half a centimetre and grabbed the lid of the little critter keeper that I shoved it in. And it planted its feet on the ground, like its back feet on the ground of the enclosure, and started doing these twists while it was looking at me. And I'm like, this thing is genuine. And it is watching to savor the pain that it is trying to cause.
100%.
But they're so intelligent. They are so
I can't
much.
wait to get some. Cannot wait to get some.
So we sent ours down to Adam Elliott, right? And when we sent down, like, there was a couple of durian bays there and a couple of black ones. And when I got them out of the pit, I used a pair of the Hex Armor gloves.
And I bagged the shit out of them for
Defender gloves. Right? So they're Kevlar coated, the whole fucking box and dice, right? I've never worn them to handle a snake in my life or anything else, but I used them for these fucking things.
Absolutely.
No, and I was like, I don't care. I don't care if someone gives me shit that I'm holding a king skink in a Kevlar glove. I feel safe. Because, and even then, right, like it sort of grabbed the glove, but it didn't get my finger through it. So I was like, oh, it's all right.
No, but you can feel the pressure on your bone. It feels like your bone is bruising, eh? Like,
100%.
100%. I'd imagine it to be like, for a while I work with birds of prey, and, you've got your big gloves and stuff like that. But if
you still feel it.
If you've got an eagle on it and they're letting you know that they're not happy, you have that moment where you go, This glove is it's not. If this eagle really decides I'm going to have it, I'm going to have it.
Yeah.
I've only held eagles a couple of times, right? But I was holding a big wedgie once, and obviously had the glove on. I'm holding onto the Jessie, and everything was okay. And some person walked a bit too close to it, and it didn't like it, so it clenched. And as it clenched, I could feel the claws like go in between my ulnar and radius in my forearm. I was like, how the fuck is it getting through? Like, I've never felt pressure like that before. It was fucked.
Yeah, no, big time. I worked with 3.
Yeah.
For a demo company down here called Full Flight Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
That was like my volunteering while I was at uni.
Yeah.
And the problem is that wedgies will bond to one person.
Everyone else is dead too.
And they'll recognize men from women as well.
Yeah.
So, like, The male wedgie that we had was really bonded to the head keeper, hated me and hated the owner of the company because we were men. And then the big female that we had would tolerate me, hated the head keeper, and hated the male wedgie.
Yeah.
And then the third one was very new while I was there, and he wasn't really socialized. But, yeah, we were involved in a study on using them to deter seagulls at the MCG during the footy. And
that sounds like a really easy way of people getting to go to the footy for free.
It was. If I was, yeah, but there's a downside. First of all, on the roof, it's freezing. Second of all, I did a few grand finals because it was usually the back half of the season where we'd do the studies. And I was there for the game where Meatloaf scored everything.
You should have sent the bird down to take Meatloaf out. That would have been so much better.
If I could, can I tell you, if you reckon it sounded bad to you, imagine hearing it and then like 3 seconds later hearing it slap off the other side of the jet. But yeah, like I had that eagle a few times, the way that we it was on like a safety lead and stuff like that. And we'd kind of let it flap its wings. And it was all about engaging the predator response out of the seagulls. We weren't lobbing them at the seagulls. Getting them to want to fly above it so they wouldn't dip below the roofline and things like that. And I
don't think you get animal ethics for lobbying eagles.
No, but no, there was a couple of times where that eagle came over the keeper's shoulders at me, and I had to kind of wait for the feet to go up and then kind of a little bit. But yeah, I'm sure at some point someone saw me looking like I was punching an eagle out of the air.
Well, everyone would be filming it now with their bloody phone, mate. So,
But,
how did you guys meet?
Do you want to tell the story?
Yeah, it was actually at my first day of like placement for uni at Reptile Encounters because Dan was working there at the time, and I'm just like all awkward and anxious outside waiting for the person that was like my contact to arrive because I got there about an hour and a half early because I'm insane. And I hear like all the noises inside and I'm like, oh, okay, there's someone in there. Maybe I should go in, maybe I shouldn't. And I go to open the door and he opens it and almost like clocks me in the head, scares that. And yeah, that was it apparently for me. I was like, yeah.
So in other words, Dan, you like going after women that are scared.
I just got him in the head with a door.
Better than an eagle.
True.
It's like something out of Barney and Rubble or Fred and Wilma, mate.
Yeah. It was, I would have been running late, I'm guessing, and bolting out the door. The door on the warehouse opened outwards, which was always going to be a disaster. I'm guessing I had the box with the croc under one arm and just burst through the door and sent it flying. I'm pretty sure on the way past, I went, whoops, sorry, in there, and just kept going.
That sounds familiar.
Wow. So, Sarah, how did you come to be at Melbourne Museum? How long ago did you start there? I'm wondering how many people we might know, because I know a few of the people that used to be at Melbourne Museum.
Yeah, I started in, I think it was end of Jan in 2022.
Okay.
Yeah. It was tail end of COVID, so time loses all meaning from that.
Doesn't it?
But no, a friend knew someone that worked there and was just like, oh, they're hiring at the moment. So I applied and interviewed and got it.
Perfect.
Nice.
Not super complicated.
Fair enough. So, who are you? What part of the live animal department are you working in there?
Yeah, so with live exhibits. So I look after all the bugs that we have for Bugs Alive, and we've got a bunch back of house because we have to breed them because bugs don't have very long lifespans. So it's mostly about maintaining the collections for display. And then like all the birds and lizards and frogs and everything that you see in the forest gallery, we look after all those as well. If it's it's alive, it's us. The people. I don't deal with the people.
You got security guards for that. So how did the lizard shed come about, guys?
Well, I had a rapidly growing collection. And that was starting to no longer fit on a set of Bunnings shelves in my bedroom. And because I was still living at home at the time. And so as things, and again, I was keeping a lot of small skinks and little geckos and things a lot of time because that was what I could fit. And also because it was a genuine interest. And, I had some outdoor enclosures with blue tongues and stuff like that in there. But my dad kind of put to me, what if we build you get a shed or something for the backyard? And we kind of, a sale happened to pop up at the local Aaron's Sheds, and for a really decent price, we got this timber, 1.7 by 2.4 meter shed.
Yeah.
And then, I'm one of my best mates.
It looks big at the start, doesn't it? You look at it and go,
oh, I walked in there and it was just it was like the cupboard in line with the wardrobe. I was like, this is incredible. I'm never going to run out of room. And then a mate of mine's, one of my best mates is a Sparky. One of my best mates was working as a handyman at the time. And I said, right, I kind of want to do this properly. And I'm pretty sure it's the year that I turned 21. So I basically for this upcoming milestone birthday, I just said, can everybody just give me Bunnings vouchers, please? And I got this mountain of Bunnings vouchers and basically went there, bought insulation, we bought drywall, we bought everything, and basically wired it up, insulated it, put a massive whirlybird on the roof of this tiny little thing to get airflow through it. So the neighbors probably thought we were growing something. And then, we fixed it all up and I had this freestanding thing that, might have caused one or two blackouts, but for the most part, it was pretty good. And it started with, my lovely rack of shelves, and all of a sudden the day that it all was wired up and ready to go, I've got my first pet snake, because I was told no snakes and no spiders while I was living in the house. So I managed to get scorpions, centipedes, and legless lizards, which my parents did not think were a real thing. They thought just literally hold the head in front of it and go, see the ears? This is not a snake. All of a sudden I had this pet python on the first day that definitely hadn't been living under my bed for 12 months, which explains why he's a psychopath. But after that, I just slowly started filling this shed and kind of rearranging to see what more we could get in there. The amount that I had shoehorned into that thing I had about, a meter by about 50 centimeters in the middle that I could walk up and down in, and everything else was shelves. And, I had a stack of 4x2 melamines at the back that literally took up about a third of the floor space in this thing. Yeah. And then, when I moved out of home and stuff, we moved into a house that had a full granny flat out the back with a sink and a little bathroom and everything like that. So then it really took off. And at the house we're at now, there's a full double garage that has also, sorry, our cats are going mental. This double garage was kind of looks like it was half built to have an entertainment area on top of it. So it's quite tall, and there's this massive concrete slab for a roof. So it's insulated brilliantly.
Yeah.
And so, this summer is probably the first summer in 10 years that I haven't had to have an aircon going or something in there. I just flick off the heat, and everybody's been absolutely fine throughout. Haven't had any heat issues at all. It's perfect. And there's a big flat grass area for a backyard it's already got some a whole bunch more.
I reckon playing Tetris.
Oh yeah,
sorry,
absolutely.
Playing Tetris when we were younger helped.
Is this your place or are you renting?
Oh, renting.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It was when I grew up in Melbourne, my parents, I had a 7x10 garden shed that had been insulated with broccoli boxes, and then we put some timber over the top of it and did the job there. But I had a walkway through the guts of it that was 40 centimeters wide, and everything else was, and floor to ceiling was just cages.
Yeah.
So there was no room in there at all.
Yeah, a giant version of what I had.
And all of it was elapids. So you had to be sort of cautious so you didn't die. But that's all right. We all have places that we start, and it gets you to appreciate the larger rooms when you have a larger room, I think.
Absolutely, and because I knew that I was a risk, I actually have, to this day, I still haven't got my advanced license, because I know that if I get my advanced, I will fight it, and I'll still end up with half a dozen tiger snakes very quickly. So I'm like, we'll wait for now.
Love is a tiger snake, mate. Just saying.
Yeah.
Well, there's no point in getting one. Like,
why should you deprive Sarah?
Localities.
Oh, yeah, I like localities, so that'll be it.
Why should you deprive Sarah of the elapid experience?
Exactly. I wouldn't mind like one of the nice like Tassie tigers. They're gorgeous. Yeah.
The Bruny Islands are really nice.
Yeah, the Brunies look awesome.
Just a bit hard to get.
Yeah, that's it. They're a bit tougher to get these days, but yeah, very, very nice.
So can someone read the comments, because I can't see?
Oh yeah, sorry. I will go on to it. So Snake Safe Victoria asked Sarah, how do you go feeding all the spiders?
Oh, I'm fine. I mostly use forceps, but it's not really that hard. It's pretty cute, like particularly the orb weavers, because you crush the head of the cricket usually and hand it to them on the forceps, and half of them run away from it. Like all the the really big like pillarbees, the golden orb weavers that you guys would get there. Yeah, they are just little chickens. You try and give them a cricket that's like this big, and they're like, "What the fuck is that?" and start like so you've got to sort of try and coax them to get them to eat a lot of the time, because they're like, "Oh, I don't know about that," and it's really cute.
Many moons ago, the Vic Museum, one of the people from there came up, and they stayed here, and they collected a heap of orb weavers, right? And so they were bringing orb weavers back for the museum, which is fine. But we were off to go and do some work on Tordactylus, the tinker frogs.
Hang on. I will just say that both of my children are terrified of spiders. Absolutely terrified.
So we've been collecting these orb weavers for about 4 days beforehand. And so we were off into the scrub then to go and do the frog work. So literally, Adam's just come and just grabbed the spiders and got them set up downstairs. When we got back, all of these orb weavers had set up webs underneath our house inside. Didn't go down so well for our sons that were petrified.
I don't think I will ever forget that scream when they walked downstairs and saw them everywhere. It wasn't what I told you. It was terrifying. Like, as a parent, I thought someone had broken in and was trying to kill him. And I get downstairs and I'm like, what? Where? He's like, spider. And I'm like, oh my fucking God, I thought you were dying, dude.
Yeah. See, Dan said I'm not allowed to get any free range spiders at home, so.
No, you don't. No, hula hoop.
Yeah, I'm like, you get
hang a hula hoop from the corner of the room and just set them up, and then they stay there.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think a few too many of our friends and family are terrified of spiders to walk in and see the big pillarpiece sitting in the corner, and
we could just pretend it's fake. They don't know. They're just watching this.
We wouldn't have a live spider just sitting in the corner, surely. Yeah, no, they're beautiful. We've got 2 species that occur here. We've got the traditional golden orb that you have around here, but then we also have the northern Australian version just hits to Brisbane as well. So we've got the pillarpies here, and we've got they live in about 3 different spots around in the yard, and so it's always good to see how long they last before a bird comes along and takes them out. So.
There's a happy ending to that story.
It's happy enough for the bird. So Corey is suggesting that elapids are where it's at. So, a bit of precious coming your way, Dan. And yeah, that's about it for now.
Yeah, so. It's all about small skinks here still.
that make great food for leopards.
Yeah.
What exactly do you guys keep? Give us the list.
How much time do you have?
Hours.
I've kind of really tried to put an effort into getting with the smaller skinks, especially trying to get what I can that's allowed in Victoria. Because the list is kind of limited. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the really small stuff, I've got the delicates, the garden skinks, I've got the Bougainville's sliders, the Larista, and then from there there's red-throated skinks, some southern waters, and trees and black rocks and whites, and what was that one? Sorry,
the Regals.
Oh yeah, the couple of Tenotus as well, the Regis and the leopards, the Queensland leopards, and then blue tongues and shinglebacks, and there's 2 species of legless lizard here at the moment, the eastern and western hoodeds, and then just a whole random variety of other stuff too that I've had the opportunity to keep. Some of it's the more common stuff, like I love Murray-Darling carpet pythons, so I've got a pair of just your run-of-the-mill South Australian looking Murrays, but also a Victorian locality from Barmer Forest. The Gammon Rangers carpets as well, just because they're such a weird locality, and what's going on with them genetically and stuff. I just always thought they were really interesting, so I was happy to get some of those. And and then recently I've gotten sugar gliders.
Oh, don't.
Yeah, the Gippsland water dragons. Pure Gippsland water dragons have become a bit of a rarity. So I kind of I got a couple of males through the Homeless Herps program down here.
Okay.
Really nice blue males, and then put a real effort into trying to find pure females, and the amount of hybrids and stuff that are around, I really had to wade through it. But
it's sad what it's become from what it used to be 20 years ago when you look at it this way.
Yeah. That it was hard, but I've got them now and they're breeding, and this year I actually had a bunch of new females as well in their first year, so they only had a very small amount of eggs and stuff, but from next year I reckon I'll be able to produce a bunch more. And I mean, I've got some, like Sarah mentioned, I had a brief hyperfixation on frogs, so I've just got a bunch of species that interested me, like the Perrins and Whistlings, and we got great barred frogs, which I'd never really seen around the hobby very much, and suddenly they popped up, and I went, we'll get some of those and see what happens. And now I'm on the cusp of having 6 very, very large frogs. So, we'll deal with that as it comes. But just I've tried anything that kind of pops up and interests me. Because I mean, through the demos and stuff, I worked with so many of the species and things, and I've got a couple of central bearded dragons, and we've got the normal carpet pythons and stuff like that. But in terms of the usual stuff, I just kind of I've worked with it. I haven't really got an interest in keeping it. But my boss at the Birds of Prey place said to me once, if there's a species that interests you and excites you, get it.
Definitely.
And don't fall into just keeping the species you think you're supposed to or something like that. If it's interesting, doesn't matter if anybody wants to see it or anybody's going to want to buy it or whatever it is. If it interests you, get it. And that's cost me thousands. But, it's been it's the reason why it's a really varied and probably slightly weird collection. But I've gotten to keep, green tree snake, and we had fat-tailed dunarts, was breeding them for a while, and just all kinds of weird things. And I got really excited about spiders for a while too, which will overlap with Sarah. But I really like funnel webs and huntsmans, and so we got to keep some interesting stuff there. And then we kept a bunch of bugs too.
So you want to keep funnel webs, but you're worried about keeping the leopards?
Oh no, I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about how many I'm going to end up buying.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Keeping funnel webs, you basically just own a jar of dirt, really. You never see them.
Sort of the same.
Which is the same as the Larista and the banjo frogs and the sand swimmers and the great barred frogs. Just varying sizes of jars of dirt.
And moisture levels,
Yeah.
Still cost you cricket, so.
We've got some
Absolutely.
photos of some of your critters. We might go through a few of those, Dan, if you want. We might give it. Let's see if we can really stuff this up and give that a crack, eh?
You walked off when we
Yes, it's
started
good.
to, you went and got your drink, and then I'm like, oh, this is where the pictures are supposed to go.
I have no idea if this is going to work, so we'll give it a go. Right, so we have a couple of things here. So these are some Cunninghams here. Are these Victorian ones, Dan?
Yep, they're Victorian locality there. I mean, they were a pet shop buy. My younger brother at the time was at the age of, well, if Dan's got it, I want it too. And so we found some Cunninghams at a local pet store and bought a couple of them. And in the end, he kind of lost interest and I took them on. But they're quite light coloured for kind of a Victorian animal too. So they're interesting looking animals. But what was weird about this litter is I think it happened in May. It was really, really late, and we had moved house in January.
Yeah.
I don't know whether moving spurned something in them or something. They hadn't bred properly for probably 6 or 7 years. She'd had a couple of litters that had been stillborn, and I kind of thought to myself, if she does this again, I might look at getting her kind of spayed or something and just going, I don't want her to hurt herself.
Yeah.
Because, the babies were coming out a little bit funny and I was a bit worried about it. But then out of nowhere, 6 bubs in stuff. Some of the other the gippies had already gone down. There'd been a cold snap or something. And, the gippies had already gone to sleep for winter. And I walked around and saw one of these things in this. It's like a 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter kind of garden bed that I got off Instagram or something like that. Just set up a massive rock pile in it and put these 2 Cunninghams in it just as a temporary kind of, let's see how they go. And I saw one of these bubs curled up in the corner and I was like, oh, she's dropped a stillborn, and then it jumped up and ran off. And what the hell? So then here I am. The one problem with wanting to set up lovely naturalistic outdoor enclosures for a rock crevice species is then having to disassemble the rock pile while the parents are trying to kill you. And chasing down. Every time I ended up with Sarah out there, I'm like trying to lift rocks, and there's just more and more babies running. Like, she hadn't even had a stillborn litter in probably 5 years, and then out of nowhere, because they'd be that pair would be about 13, and out of nowhere, she just drops the biggest litter she's ever had. They're all healthy. I've kept 2 of them and gave the other 4 to a friend, but they're just gorgeous Cunninghams.
It's funny how quickly they can. It's funny how young they can breed. We got some neonates from a person on the Gold Coast.
Hang on, which the New
black
England,
black
or
ones.
okay?
And so they were juveniles. They were 6 weeks old or so when we got them.
I remember that he hadn't caught them out the pit, and then goes to Scott, well, do you want to catch them?
Yeah, so he was afraid of them. So I've caught them out, and that was fine. And so we ended up getting these. So we kept 4 for ourselves. We wanted. We were keeping 2, and then there was 2 going down south. So we separated them out. Next thing you know, it's looking pretty big. They've grown pretty quick to this size, and they only got to about 180 mil. So they're one of these small dwarf form. Yeah. And she was sunning herself non-stop. So that was the dead giveaway. Every minute of sunlight, she was on the rocks. So at 10 months of age, that was that. This lizard had dropped a clutch of 4 babies. Now, it's pretty incredible to have a live bearer that, for all intents and purposes, has a gestation period of about 130 days. To be producing a litter at 10 months of age. That means that at 5 months of age, she was gravid, sort of thing, and ovulating. So, pretty nuts.
It's funny how fast some of them can grow. I had a couple of tree skinks that went outside into a decent sized enclosure with a trio of jackies, just because I wanted to see if I could put them together. I've seen them together in the wild. And the issue I had was that Jackie dragons are stupid. And so in the time it took, I love Jackie dragons, they're dumb as bricks. In the time it took for them to realise that there was food in the enclosure, literally those two had eaten all the food running around the bottom of this outdoor enclosure. And one day I went out there and looked at the Jackies and went, they've lost weight. These morons aren't eating. I'm throwing 5 or 6 lizards worth of crickets into this enclosure. I lift up the log. These two things are full grown. They were 6 months old. Because tree skinks are the opposite. They are stupidly intelligent for a small lizard.
Yeah. And they can eat like a fucking horse.
Well, as they did. Yeah, they were probably the first reptile I reckon I bred were tree skinks. I've got the first pair I ever got off Jason McKellar years and years ago.
Yeah.
They were adults when I got them. I reckon I've probably been breeding them for 10 or 11 years now. And they are still, I mean, this season they had maybe 3 babies each, but the 2 girls I've got, the year before, I think they both had 4 or 5. Like they're
but you'll find that they'll have a low litter and then they'll have a big litter the following year, and that's that. But that can happen for 25 years. Yeah,
I've heard of them breeding into their 20s. And I looked there. Yeah. In fact, not this girl, but the other girl I had, the original, she escaped out of back when I was in that the reptiles were in the granny flat, and I didn't see her for about 2 weeks. I'm like, she's gravid. Surely she hasn't nicked off anywhere. And then I'd see her bolt underneath the shelves here and there, and would just keep missing her. And then finally, after about 2 weeks, I was kind of misting a whole bunch of the stuff that needed it, and I happened to hit the wall. And as I turned around, she was up the wall on the ground, licking the water off the wall. I grabbed her, threw her in. She escaped again the next day. Was out for another 2 weeks. Got her, figured out how she was getting out. There was a broken piece on the glass doors, and she was squeezing herself between the glass doors on a melamine enclosure and getting herself out. And after 4 weeks out of 5 weeks with no heat, anything like that, dropped the biggest litter she's ever had.
They're a lot more intelligent, hey, than we give them credit for.
Absolutely. Those trees give me a run for my money.
Is there anything that you haven't kept that you want to keep?
There's a lot of stuff that's not in that we can't keep in Victoria.
Oh, okay.
So I mean,
anything interesting?
I'd love to have another crack at Delma. The first legless lizards I got the chance to keep were Delma and Ornata. And that was because I was supposed to be getting, and I was too young to take on a species of that complexity, and I was buying a pair of Burtons, which would have been a fabulous idea. And the night before I was supposed to get them, something happened to one of the Burtons, and I was getting them off Danny Brown, and this is when he was getting rid of a bunch of those colonies that he had, and he said, "I'm sorry, so what do you want to do about this?" And I said, "You still selling those Delma?" And he had like a colony of 5. I have no idea how old they were, but he gave me a pair of those, and I kept them for a while. But they've definitely got advantages to keeping over the bigger pygopods and stuff. They will chase crickets down, whereas my pygos usually don't want to chase anything.
Yeah.
And
I mean, like you hold it still for them, and they go.
Yeah, they miss. Well, they grab it and they drop it, and they look up and start attacking the tongs. But yeah, nowadays there's almost no Ornata around. The only other Delma we can keep in Victoria is Australis. I don't think there's been Australis around in the hobby much for a very long time.
They used to be held in half reasonable numbers back in about 2005, 2006.
Yeah, so I would have been 14, so I don't reckon I would have been too good for it then. But that's the thing, is it's funny how you hear about these species coming and going.
Yeah, yeah.
One day to be, Tinctor's around everywhere, or that was around everywhere for a little while there.
Yeah,
but yeah, we can't touch them. Otherwise,
I think the hard part is that people go, "Oh, they're around everywhere," and yes and no. Right? What it is that you might have 1 or 2 people that breed them, and when they decide that they can't be bothered breeding them anymore, or they lose one of their males or lose a female or whatever, then the animals that were everywhere, that were only being bred by one or two people, aren't being bred anymore, and so then they disappear from the hobby.
I think too, what comes in as the new exciting thing, and everyone buys up on that, and like say Jags and that. Whereas 20 years ago, monitors were quite easy to come across.
Yeah, I think it just depends on what people are after, and then also too, in some cases as well, there's some places that do allow for legal wild collection, and those legal wild collected things do supplement some of the things that are sitting in the hobby at times. So we've got a question here from Zach Pickett. What's your all-time favourite reptile, Sarah and Dan? We'll go Sarah first, and why?
Oh, that's a hard one. Crap. I don't know. It's like, you ask someone their favorite and it's like, how do you narrow it down? Favorite thing that I've worked with, hands down, would be Thorny Devil. They are so beyond adorable, and they just are they're so cool, just how they just are. They're amazing. Sorry, I'm excited by them. Yeah. No, I love Thorny Devils. They're a pain in the ass because you've got to go and collect ants for them constantly and get an ant colony going because they eat one specific genus of tiny black house ants. But yeah, no, they're probably my favorite. That or a Lacey,
Okay.
And you just made everyone jealous with the Thorny Devil.
Yeah.
So you guys used to run sort of at least 3 ant colonies for your Thornies. Are you still running 3, or are you running more than that now?
I think it's 3 still, or it might be 2 because 2 of them are connected, but we can disconnect them. So
yep.
Yeah.
I thought they were having success with Wambaroo with Thorny Devils years ago.
No, they supplement the ants with the Wambaroo, but they don't.
Okay.
They still need to feed the Thornies Wambaroo. Thornies ant. What about yourself, Dan?
Oh, it's probably a tie between shinglebacks and Murray-Darling carpets. I've just always loved both of them. Shinglebacks, they're the first lizard I had that got me into reptiles. And not even the super fancy, bright orange, expensive ones. As awesome as they are and as fun, it's probably one of the only animals that I'd be happy to keep one in every colour. Well, no, 2 in every colour. But it's the Victorian locality shinglebacks. I absolutely love some of the ones you get with all the whites and the gold flecks on them and stuff. I reckon they are. I have people, if you go, what do you want those poo colours? Nah, some of the Victorian locality shinglebacks are some of the best looking shinglebacks we've got. And then Murray-Darlings are just such stunning snakes, such interesting snakes. Maybe it's just because it's leopard print. I don't know. But, from the massive Renmark ones to the Victorian ones that I've got with the chocolate browns all over them that are 4 foot long. They're just such an interesting snake and for the most part in captivity, the ones I've worked with at least have all been pretty peaceful and happy.
And they're also another thing getting few and far between in the hobby.
Yes, big time. There was a couple of localities that were kind of popping up here and there, and now I feel like this season there was a massive surge in the silver peppers, and so everything that's relatively normal looking for a Murray is het for silver pepper. But in terms of, there was a couple of the Pillager and the Dejaras around for a few seasons there, but even your kind of bog standard, I say bog standard like it's not one of my favourites, just the normal South Australian looking Murrays that used to be everywhere. Just where? I picked up a female yesterday when I was talking to you. But that was only because it popped up and I went, geez, I might want to jump on this.
Yeah.
But, they're funny that they're just kind of gone. So I'm happy that I've also got this trio of the Barmer Forest localities and had a crack at breeding this year. And it was a first year and they the clutches didn't do particularly well, but I got a couple of babies out and they're slowly getting there. We'll see how they are, but it's a first time. The snakes are only probably 3 or 4. So it's plenty of time to experiment with it.
Definitely. Is there a piece of equipment in your herp room that you can't live without?
Forceps. Yeah.
No hesitation.
No, at all. My forceps are a multi-tool. They are a scraper. They are a screwdriver. They are a separator of pygopods that are trying to grab the same cricket. They are.
So the question is how long are your forceps?
How rude.
Not the sort. It's I don't know, largish.
Average?
Yeah, average. Boyfriend tweezers. No.
It's funny, right? We've got different forceps for different reasons, right? So, the longest set that we've got are 24 inches long, which are great for keeping your fingers out of the fangs of Death Adders, and a lot of other things. Whereas the ones that we tend to use a lot of feeding with, like we're feeding baby elapids and stuff, 12 inches long, but they've got really narrow points that are rounded. So you can offer a pinky, but you don't have a big shiny piece of metal that is scaring the shit out of the baby snake at the same time.
That'd be about the size we're using. I think the 12-inch ones are pretty much the multi-tool of my herp room, and probably
I don't know what inches.
Yeah.
Oh, but
the ones that are the same.
Yeah, like 30 centimeters, like a ruler length of probably what I use, because I don't want to be putting my hands in the enclosures with the funnel webs too much. Like, if I have to move them, it's a spoon and forceps or a big brush.
I thought you said it's just a jar of dirt.
Yeah, but it's a angry jar of dirt.
It's spicy dirt.
Dirt with a surprise.
Darren,
we'll talk, Darren.
I was going to say Darren Boswell's just chimed in to sort of tempt Dan by the look of it. So thanks for that, Dan.
Has been successful.
Excellent. Oh.
I mean, we do need more animals.
Yeah, Murray Darlings are one like that. I was like that. The differences in the localities and stuff is so interesting, and so I've spoken with Alex Holmes from Mildura that works with EnviroED. You always have him and his partner.
Yeah.
He's got a whole bunch of the Murray localities, and we regularly compare. And
he gets a ref. He's photographed some critters.
And if some of the mammals and stuff as well. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
But there'll be plenty of Murray localities if once the rooms are all, some more enclosures and stuff like that. Murray's are one where I'm like, Murrays and shingles, the reason that they're my favorite is because I could never have enough.
He's still going too. He's still throwing out that fish, that bait for you, mate.
Bait stale.
Oh, this whole life thing's a bit of fun. This is a bit different. It is definitely like taking me off the fucking rails completely, and I'm not following the script at all. But that's okay.
It's your turn.
Oh, it's my turn, right? Okay.
The blue one is yours, Darren.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Blue for boy.
Can you share any unique or unconventional approaches you've taken into keeping reptiles or insects that you've found work for you? I'll throw that out to either of you.
Yeah, I was going to say one for keeping particularly a lot of spiders and stuff, particularly if you're into MIGs and stuff. They kind of thrive on neglect. I think people get to I need to do this and do that. I forgot about mine for 6 months and didn't feed them, and they molted and they're in really great condition. So
I think
they can do well. You don't need to be in there every day bothering stuff. It'll do better if you give it a bit of space,
Well, it brings down that cortisone level, doesn't it? The cortisol and that is there, right? Because these things are not designed to see this massive great predator 2,000 times their size coming in, shining a bright light over the top of them all the time. Their life is underground, or maybe at night they might come up to the edge So they're used to darkened environments and all the rest of it. And then we come along and we flood them because we think that their soil's a bit too wet, or we throw an insect down their burrow and we want to see them eat. So we then use a piece of metal or a paintbrush to try and stir it up so it goes down and eats the cricket. It's probably good for them every now and then to be left alone, as long as the basic microhabitat is conducive to the species.
Yeah, that's it. And it's like a lot of things too. You just have a look at its ecology too. Like a lot of spiders and stuff, they're probably not going to be eating like every day in the wild. Like the stuff's not just going to appear in front of it. So sort of just trying to emulate as much of a sort of naturalistic environment as you can, I think is just really great for keeping.
Definitely.
There's quite a nice stripe on that trader eye there.
Yeah. I've got she's still with me. I've got some of the Schrader eye. I've got a really nice vertical stripe on them, and then a couple that have just kind of got zigzaggy patterns on them, but with almost like this dark grayish blue that really comes through on them as well. And there's some. Yeah, I mean, I see plenty of photos of wild ones that are kind of drab, and that's fine. And in the wild, that's a good thing. But, some of the Schrader eye that do get about in the hobby are really, really good looking. And I know there was a few people that were really literally line breeding, 4 lines, for a while with the Schrader eye. And there was a couple kicking around those, is it the black soil form?
Yeah.
That comes out looking like the heathland lepidopods. And so
I think there's a chance that there's something else in the eye. It may not be. Yeah,
cool.
there might be something.
More pygos. I have no problem with that. That girl's particularly stunning. But I mean, she was one of the things that led me to something I started doing with my pygos is just separate housing everything.
Yep.
Like
particularly the females will smash the males.
Oh yeah,
and you like the scars that you have on them as well. On Lepidopodus, like if you've got a male Lepidopodus, you put it in with a female, and the female doesn't want to breed, you're going to be lucky if that Lepidopodus is keeping his tail. And potentially if you leave him in for much longer than a day, he may not be surviving because of the stress that they get put under from the damage that they cop is insane.
Yeah, and I found that across the 3 pygopus species that I've kept, they're really different ways of interacting with each other. Like I was told early days, talking to keepers that had worked with a bunch of them, if you get a pair that get along, keep them together. Don't separate them. You'll never get them together again. But what I found with some of them, if they get along too well, they won't breed.
Yep.
You had to have a little bit of animosity. And so I had a pair of commons that I got, and the female was 80 centimeters plus.
Yeah.
She was a monster of a thing. When I got her, I think they came from Simon Ferguson.
Yeah.
When I got a pair of those and my pair of Westerns off him, and when he messaged me to say, "Hey, how'd you go at the airport?" I said, "Thanks so much for the pygos and this bonus children's python you've thrown in." And she was a phenomenal handler. I used to, during live stream demonstrations during lockdown where I was doing stuff from my house, I'd go grab her and use her in front of the camera for demos.
Wow.
She was that good at handling. But her male was this little real slate blue specimen. And when it came to feeding time, you'd hear him kind of squeaking and kind of getting punched by her a little bit here and there. But then I'd start feeding them and they'd be fine. Whereas I had another trio, where it was a female and 2 males, and the female would beat the 2 into the corner. But what happened with my original pair was that as the male had a bit more growing to do. I don't think the female could possibly have grown anymore. They'd be a little bit of a squabble, but there was never any major damage.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought at the time, in the past, I'd had that with southern spotted velvet geckos. And what had happened was one time the male turned around and fought back and literally threw the female off the branch, and that was the year that they bred. So I went, okay. And sure enough, made sure that if I had to separate them a little bit at feeding, even just by turning a piece of bark up sideways, and breaking that eye line, I could, feed him up. And he got up to, I mean, he might have gotten to 50 centimeters, 60 centimeters long, maybe, probably not even. And then one day he turned around and she was kind of pecking at him a bit and he grabbed her. And she was flipping around the tub the tank trying to get away from him, and he let her go. And a few weeks later, I had eggs.
Wow.
But the commons, they kind of they either wouldn't sort themselves out at all, or they'd have that little bit of a bicker. The Westerns just got along too well and didn't do anything. The Easterns were fine until the moment they weren't, and then that was it. And that striped girl that was up before, she was in with a male. She was totally fine. They got along like a house on fire, to the point that I was like, these might not breed. And then one day she killed him. I don't know whether the weather changed or something, but she just ripped him.
Maybe it's just something about females, Dan.
Yeah,
you've got to be careful.
Yeah.
And you still haven't learned.
But with them now, I'm keeping them all individually, and whether I'm going to introduce one to the other for breeding or whether I set up a separate tank. And it's the same. I've got what are they? Versicolor. Oh, they're versicolor now. They're treatatellas.
Yeah.
They're psychotic. Yeah. They're beyond psychotic. For what is essentially a fancy marbled gecko, I've got 4 of them individually housed. And I'm trying to figure out, I'm probably going to need like a 3-foot by 2-foot exoterra or something to introduce a pair into to try and breed, and have to watch them like giant cave geckos or something, which is more of a challenge for me now because I don't know how many people are going to want them. But it's at this point, it's a point of pride.
I must say that's one of the perks of working at home.
Yeah, you can monitor what's going on.
Actually, have you thought about putting in what's that thing we use, the camera thing?
Oh yeah, you're talking about being sponsored by Bunnings. We use the Grid Connect cameras.
Yeah.
And there's a battery a USB charge version that you can put into enclosures and stuff like that, and you can then live stream what's going on.
Yeah. My problem is I'll sit at work like this, just watching. But
it's only a problem if you're caught.
Yeah, true. I've got a bunch of that Grid Connect stuff, and I really want to add more of it in. The problem I had is when I moved house, it just freaked out about the address change and nothing had couldn't connect. So I need to go back to square one and wipe it all out. And I've just been lazy. That's
wipe it and reset it. I think that Bunnings should be renamed, or they should seriously look at sponsoring herps. That'd be really handy, because the amount of herpers that go to Bunnings, and for the international people, Bunnings is like our version of Home Depot or Walmart, I suppose. In a lot of ways, it's sort of a construction company, a construction supply company. So
to bring back those $3 40-watt incandescent globes for us small skin people. Not those ones that now that melt out of the bloody fitting. Like, bring back the Philips.
Yeah, well, I've still got like a box, and I mean not a box of thingo, but I've still got a box of the reflector globes, the 60 watt reflector globes, because they were getting rid of them for $1 for a 10-pack, because they were changing energy companies and all that sort of stuff, and they weren't going to be allowed to sell them anymore. So yeah, they should sponsor the episode, Sapiano. Maybe you might be able to do something and help us with this.
Oh, just drop him in it.
Yeah, there we go.
So I suppose now that we've gone off of that, I just lost where I was at. I was there. What similarities do you find performing with Ablaze and doing wildlife demonstrations? Have you been able to learn something from one part and help supplement it with the other?
Oh yeah, I have.
what you've done, Sarah, is to let Dan do it. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, pretty much. Who do you think is looking after everything when he's in Europe?
Yeah, exactly.
I hear you, Sarah.
Well, in both cases, I enjoy being the center of attention. No, with the band, I mean, I'm sitting up the back, but there's still a little bit of audience. Which is what a face. What a mug.
I love the shirts, the singlets.
Oh yeah, that's become a point. Like seeing what kind of funny shirts, and there's some stupid things that come up online. And now I've got people that send them to me and say, "Hey, you should wear this one." I just picked up one that's really appropriate that says "undiagnosed," but everybody's pretty sure.
I reckon you should just wear a Bunnings shirt.
Tell you what, yeah. See if we can push the favour as far as possible. But yeah, with the demonstrations, it's more been about. I guess my thing with the demos has always been I don't want to be the focus. I don't want to be the guy that's look at me, look how much I know about this again. The face.
There wasn't much to choose from, Dan.
No, that's fair. I've got a habit of at the last second going, "Don't smile, you look stupid," and doing that. But yeah, no, it's I've always I want to be like that high energy kind of presenter that gets your attention, and I love throwing in humor and stuff like that, which again has become a big part of the Ablaze live shows, or me and the lead singer Danny in particular, almost constantly insulting each other on stage. And yeah, with the demos, whether I'm making fun of myself. I mean, I used to, so we had a frill neck called Buff because he was a big Queensland frilly with a massive head. And I used to say his name's Buff because he's just like me. He's got a massive fat head. Like if I can be self-deprecating and things like that, helps add to the show, I'm happy to do it. That there is one of the happiest days of my life.
Right. Is that because you're looking at a funny-looking elongated carpet python?
Yeah, a really giant stinny. That was the band was playing in Adelaide.
Yeah.
And we were making good time, and I happened to make a post about it, and I got a message from Steve Crawford, who's a good mate, and I'd been on the Aussie Wildlife Show with him and Adrian a little while before, and he said, "Hey, if you're driving in, swing past the house." So I brought the band to his house.
Excellent.
And I mean, like our lead guitarist Ben has kept reptiles in the past, and our bassist Paris is really interested in them. And so I said, okay, we're doing a band excursion to a reptile collection, and he basically just handed them I'm not a morph guy, but a really, really nice marbled children's, and had them basically eyes bugging out as they passed it around. He goes, "I know what you want," and came in and just pulled out his big female arm pelly and dumped it on my shoulders and said, "Had fun." And he was there, and him and Matt Bonnet was there too, and they were just watching me just borderline at this amazing snake, and sitting there going, "Yeah, okay, I'm gonna need about 6 of these." And yeah, I mean, what a snake! I mean, just even the way it was sitting on my shoulders and moving around, I'm like, this is not anything else. This is such a cool thing, and because it's right up my alley, it's really weird. Not a lot of people. I mean, now we've got that amazing book and all that kind of stuff. But people, for a long time, really didn't seem to know much about them. At least the people that I was talking to. So it was just this mythical creature, basically.
Well, they change colour.
Yeah,
right? They are fairly difficult to find in the wild. They're not impossible. They are fairly difficult. There's a couple of people that are breeding them now, and I suspect later on this year there's going to be probably a few more people breeding them as well.
I thought you were going to say, I suspect I'll be having one by the end of the year. I was like, what?
I definitely would do want to keep old fellies. There is no doubt about that. But yeah, look, at the same time, I think that they are going to be one of those snakes that's going to be around for a long time, and they're going to command a reasonable price for a long time because they get big, but they also remain relatively quiet as well.
Yeah.
So they're a good handling animal, but they they do seem to be a little bit nervy from a demonstrator's point of view. So they you need to be a little bit cautious with them in that regard. But I think that we'll start to see them become more and more popular here in Australia, and eventually New South Wales and Victoria, I'm sure, will allow them to be kept in private hands. One of the issues about bringing different species onto the different state licensing systems is that the state authorities want to see proven breeding in a number of locations before that they tend to be willing to allow those species to come onto their schedules, and that's as a means of deterring illegal collection and stuff like that. So whether people agree with it or not, that's basically their methodology behind it. So
fair enough. Well, yeah, hopefully that they come onto private, and again, hopefully they're bred properly and everybody kind of knows what's come from where, and we don't end up with any issues. And
well, every single one of them's been genetically tested, pretty much. So they know that everyone that was collected by Gavin has got DNA sitting there with Parks and Wildfire. So at the end of the day, right, they'll be able to trace them back. So if there's something there that doesn't come from that genetic line, they're going to have some interesting questions, I think. So yeah.
So this is a me question. I want to know what is your most embarrassing moment on stage or in a demo, both of you.
Jeez, on stage, I've had some
crackers,
ridiculous things happen. I mean, from the early days in the band, there was once where I was playing at the time, a relatively big show for us, supporting a bigger Melbourne band and stuff, and happened to break a drumstick because I used to hit like a moron. I still hit like a moron, but I know how to hit them. And I just broke this stick and just threw the stick behind me, and I was on a corner stage. It's blowing up, hitting the corner, and literally come back and clocked me in the back of the head. In front of the entire audience, and I was just like laughing, and all my mates in the front row were just holding each other up. They were laughing so hard. I think we played Adelaide a couple of nights ago. I think the last time we were in Adelaide, the drum riser at this venue was great, but it was just almost millimeter perfect. And I think I hit really hard. I think I hit the cymbal hard a few too many times, and the stand's just gone off the side of the drum riser. And as the whole thing's gone, the cymbal, which is essentially a flattened, semi-sharpened piece of metal, went straight through a power cord. Now, like the main power cord to the stage cleaved this thing.
Oh, no.
Wire cutters wouldn't have done as good a job, and all the power went out. The guitars were making no sound. The lights were off. And luckily, it managed to happen right at a part where the song kind of came down a bit to this kind of quiet section. And as we realized the guitars were off, our singer, Danny's just gone, Mango on the drums. And I was like, cool. This is the second song of a set. It is freezing cold. Do you think I'm going straight into a drum solo? Cool. So the sound guy is running around the stage trying to figure out what the hell happened. I am trying to do some sort of drum solo to keep the crowd entertained. All my limbs are seizing up because it would have been winter last year or something. So it was cold as in a warehouse, and warming up had done nothing. And I think I had to try and keep the crowd engaged because the drums were the only thing they could hear for a solid 5 minutes.
How dark was it? How dark was it? So could you see where you were hitting, or you were
roughly, because the rest of the venue was okay. It was just the stage lighting that went out.
Oh,
so
good.
But it was one of the silliest things. I don't think demo-wise, things that people might get embarrassed about, I don't think I've gotten embarrassed about. Like, you ever had like an olive python shit explosion?
Yeah, I've had that. And I guess 2 kids, I don't think that's that embarrassing because, I've changed nappies and stuff. Yeah.
My best one was I was doing a demo at a house, and it all seemed to be going okay. And I had this one person that really wanted to hold the snake, but they wouldn't put their hand flat. right?
Hang on. This was ritzy as fuck. It was a 21st birthday, and there was no expense spared. Hey, like there's stairs.
So I was like, look, just put your hand out flat, and the snake will just sit there, and then you just pat it. Pat it like you pat a pussycat. The snake will be fine. And the hands all contorted, and I couldn't understand quite well what was going on. I thought that she'd had a skin full of piss. And so that's why she was slurring her words. She'd had a stroke.
Oh my God.
And because she had a stroke, her hand was contorted and it affected her speech. And
grumpy as fuck, Scott goes, hold your hand fucking flat. You're going to drop my lizard. And she goes, I can't. Jeez. And I just looked at Scott and I'm like, what the fuck? And he goes, she's pissed. And I'm like, no, she's not. And he goes, yes, she is. And I'm like, look at her back leg. Like, she's had a stroke.
Yeah. Oh, look, you've reminded me, actually, I had one kid where I asked him to cross their legs and he was like, I can't. And it was because he had some sort of leg brace thing going on. And I was like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. I didn't see it. He's like, no, it's cool. But, I mean, a lot of the stuff that's happened in shows, I know it's embarrassed parents. It's embarrassed teachers. I've had some kids say some wild stuff. I remember doing a show in Swan Hill and, starting with the spiny leaf insect, as every demonstrator does, and going, my first animal's got 6 legs. And this kid going, what do you think it might be? And he goes, my sister's got 6 toes. And all the teachers just going, and then me looking at him and going, on each foot or all up? And then all the teachers lost it. They're like, oh, my God, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, it's fine. It was funny. But, I've had goannas. I remember having a big Mertens that we had at Reptile Encounters for a while that someone I was doing the demo with at the time, out of Bunnings.
Should we all drink every time the word Bunnings is dropped?
Could be a shop thing, yeah.
Someone was, I thought we'd bring a goanna today and brought this massive male Mertens. Like, I didn't realize Mertens got this big until I started that job. I thought they were a smaller kind of mid, so this thing was huge. And he, as I'm holding him, and he did not want to be held, and a plane popped out to bed here, and he just spun his body and just piss. Just straight across me, and I'm just standing there and like putting on a smile and putting him back in the box, and then after the show just going, we're never bringing this frigging goanna again.
You learn pretty quickly when you do wildlife demos that you take 2 pairs of pants, 2 shirts,
6 pillowcases.
Yeah, lots of extra pillowcases.
Yeah,
lots and lots and lots of cleaning equipment for sure.
Oh yeah, there's a spray bottle of F10 within reach at all times.
That's it. What about yourself, Sarah? Did you have something that you wanted to share with us, or did you want to leave that one off to the side?
No, it's probably been whenever I've been doing like a little OH&S safety thing, like teaching people that are coming through for like volunteering or placement. And I'm just like, oh yeah, this is how you pick up like a shingleback. We go through all the animals and then I'll be like, okay, like you can't handle this one, but like I'll get it out so you can see it and see the right way. And then it bites me. Happened with like a scaly foot. I got it out and I was just like, yeah, it's great because this one's super friendly and they're not normally this nice. Immediately bites me and I'm like, yeah, I probably
you never say that.
I copped exactly the same thing from a diamond python during like a special private tour experience thing, and they were desperate to get this diamond python around their neck, and I did, and it just hit me right there. And I don't know it was a mid-sized diamond. It wasn't an overly special carpet python bite or anything, but it just wouldn't stop bleeding, which looked really bad for this person getting a private tour. But, although I didn't get bitten many times during shows. I got kicked by stick insects a few times, and a couple of them. Some of those spinies are armed. But, the worst I copped was from a brush-tailed bettong. No, from a Rufus bettong.
Yeah.
Grumpy little pink bastards. The thing was in a pouch, and I'm letting, at my high school, the first time that they agreed to let me come along and do a demo for them. And I'm walking in this senior class. One of my best friend's younger siblings is in the class, and it's tucked into the pouch, and I'm letting them pat it on the back. And this thing was, well, I mean, it was the best Rufus Bettong we had at the time. They're all grumpy as they get bigger. And it just threw the pouch right about there. And I'm trying to keep a face and just be like, in the back of my head, I'm going, let go, or you're going to be just one of those bites where they start doing those ones. Oh,
Fair enough.
furry things.
So what does getting out of your comfort zone look like for you guys?
This.
Well answered, Sarah. Well answered.
So you did? Being quiet.
I mean, doing when I've done demos and stuff, but for reptile people or for wildlife people, when it's been a lot more, I can't fluff my way through anything. I can't, you know. How old is it? Oh, about 3. No, I'm not going to get away with that every time. And it's like occasionally in a demo, someone will ask you a question and you look at them and you're like, I absolutely know the answer to this, but it's just not with me right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, when you're in front of a group of kids or in front of people at Bunnings or a supermarket or something like that, you can figure your way through it. When you're in front of them, or like I did a demo for a uni group once. And yeah, I mean, that's the stuff that makes me nervous. Where it's like, all right, I better have my stuff together here. These are people that are going to know.
Yeah,
whether or not I'm making something up to fill in the gaps here.
It can be a little bit unnerving when you're speaking in front of a whole group of herpers.
Yeah,
I feel like my brain goes that way and my mouth goes that way. Nothing meets in the middle, and I just say the stupidest shit.
Yeah, well, I think I'm doing a talk for the Illawarra Herp Society in a couple of months' time, and that's terrifying.
Nice.
Yeah,
You'll be fine.
Because if I get up and start talking about pygopods and small skinks and someone stands up and goes, actually,
The guys at Illawarra are great.
Yeah, I'm sure. It'll be a lot of fun, but a lot of my stuff that I've learned has been trial and error. So I don't know if any of the trials are still error.
But that's how we learnt in the early days.
That's it.
So if you could go herping anywhere in the world, where would you go, Sarah?
Ooh, probably in the Amazon, mostly just because then I'd get a whole bunch of really sick bugs as well.
Hey, I don't care if it's bugging versus herping. Like if that's the place that you want to go bugging the most, or is that Borneo, or what? Where's your?
Ooh, yeah, that'd be sick.
Borneo's got some pretty good stick insects and stuff like that as well.
Like everywhere. I just want to go everywhere, see it all. I want to go see the big sex bowl of garter snakes. I think that'd be wild.
Yep.
I thought that was heading somewhere totally different than for a sec.
That'd be really cool. It's such an interesting
Yeah,
it's
insane.
I don't know. Like, I really want to go to the Galapagos. Would be awesome.
100%.
And the Amazon and Borneo and Papua New Guinea and stuff could be some cool spots. But the truth of the matter is, I haven't been to that many places in Australia. I'd love to go to Pacadilly, Pilbara, and the Kimberley, and Far North Queensland, and just Australian stuff is still my absolute passion. So being able to see more of that stuff in the wild right now would be awesome.
Well, next time Ablaze is touring in Brizzy, make sure you give us a yell and we'll see if we can sneak you away for a bit of time.
Yeah, I'll try and stay an extra couple of days.
So what's the most adventurous thing you've done traveling?
Traveling with a band. that is the adventure. The ridiculous.
So no Booney-esque drinking games or anything like that?
No, absolutely.
Okay, right.
When we went in 2019, when we did our first tour of the UK and Europe, when we were on that first plane to Doha, the I want to say the air hostess, the air assistant was really, really quick, picked up and looked at. I mean, there was 4 of us, and they all looked like me. So this guy came up and went, "You guys a band?" Yes. Cool. Walked off. And I swear The second the VB can was empty, another one appeared.
Yeah.
Until, I reckon, about 4 hours from the end of the flight, suddenly he came up and was like, "Oh no, sorry, we're not going to serve alcohol anymore." And all the other airline staff were walking past and kind of looking at us like this, and was like, "Listen, we're not drunk. We've been on this thing for a long time. We haven't caused any issues. Why is it? Are they scared that we were about to start running up and down the roads or something like that?" But yeah, I mean, touring for close to 5 weeks with 4 of your best mates playing, and most of the time you're in a van or in a pub or in a truck stop, was ridiculous.
Yeah, okay. So was that on Qatar Airways going to Doha?
Yeah, it was in Qatar, I think. No,
Yeah.
Emirates, I think.
Emirates.
Maybe there was a bit of VB. I don't remember who we flew.
We flew with Qatar when we went over to Germany, and it was bloody amazing. The flights and all the rest of it were really, really good.
Maybe it was Qatar. Is it Qatar that's from Doha?
Yeah, Qatar goes to Doha, yeah.
Okay, it must have been Qatar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing.
The freebies were good, yes.
Scott got so excited over the menu, and I'm like, look at all this free shit they're giving us.
Absolutely.
Free shit is good. What's the most unforgettable meal you've had while traveling? I'm just thinking of your Facebook post years ago.
Yeah, well, when I was in Europe, there was a hashtag that was Mango eats everything in Europe. And someone brought it up the other day. We've started getting announced for some festivals and stuff later this year. And the first thing, someone popped up and said, "Is Mango going to start eating everything again?" I was on keto for about 6 months after we got back. But yeah, no, there was. I think the post that you're referring to, that bloody baguette full of hamon and stuff in France, is the greatest thing I may ever have eaten. And Sarah cooked some pretty amazing stuff. But that was mind blowing. The bread, cheese, and essentially special ham could taste that good. Bread in France is stupid. We got off the bloody ferry across from the UK, and it was still dark. Drove for like 4 hours until the sun came out. Pulled into a petrol station. The only thing I had the guts to pronounce in a country that's renowned for not wanting to speak English, the only thing I could pronounce was American hot dog in this petrol station.
Yeah.
And this woman went to the fridge, grabbed it out of the fridge, warmed it up for like a couple of seconds, handed it to me. It was the best friggin' bread I've ever eaten in my life.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, there was some other wild stuff that we ate. Like, in Scotland, I had a hamburger that had haggis in it.
Yeah.
Oh, what was that like?
Honestly, amazing.
Really?
Because it was just a real big, beefy cheeseburger. Just between the cheese and the burger, there was this really thin layer.
Oh, okay.
And it was almost a little bit of a spicy kind of flavor to it. And I was like, this is sick. I don't think I could eat a bowl of it. But I mean, there's an Italian dish that my grandparents used to make as I was growing up that was made pretty similarly. That I'm glad it was stomach because it turned mine. But bread like that was, yeah, the rest of the band was looking at me like, what the hell are you doing?
What about you, Sarah?
Oh, mine's actually more local. I'm still obsessed with it. At a friend's wedding down on the coast at the end of last year, and I'm so obsessed with this. They had these little jars, and it had like a little potato, like a fondant potato, and a little bit of steak. Was it? Yeah. But it was in a jar full of like smoke. So you'd open it, and it was just holy. It just like
Holy what? Say it.
Holy fuck.
It was just. I was sitting there. It's been months, and I'm still talking about it. And I'm like, man, that steak changed my life.
The wedding photographer saw us open the jars and came over and said, "Get another one. I need to take a photo of the face that you just pulled." And there's a photo from the official, because I mean, the lead guitarist from the band, his beautiful wife, they've been friends of mine for a very, very, very long time. And there is an official wedding photographer photo of me with this little jar, just like.
You'll have to find out how to recreate it, Sarah.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I definitely haven't already been looking up how to do that.
Pinterest.
Kick some spiders out of some jars for a bit and try.
All right, Dan, we got to ask this. What's your fascination with the tucker box?
To the point where I think last time we were at the tucker box, I think we did a FaceTime message with you and said, "Hey, we're at the tucker box."
Yeah, I get them.
We didn't know why we were doing it.
I get photos of people and their kids. It doesn't matter whether they're just friends from life, whether they're people from the music scene, people from the wildlife industry, anything like that. I get sent photos of people at the tucker box. All this started as was going there. We went past there on a school trip. I was in the school band. I think we were doing a few days of some shows in schools in Canberra or something like that. And the music teacher took us to this thing. And we walked up to the front and I saw the statue and I went, "Oh, is this the entrance?" I presumed that it was like the big whatever. I thought the dog on the tucker box was like 4 stories tall.
Yeah.
No, that's
to be fair, there is a lot of big things as you drive around Australia. Like
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we went past that.
Big merino.
Terrifying. The koala.
Oh, yeah, the drop bear, you mean?
In Dadswell Bridge, that red-eyed freak of a thing. Yeah, but I thought it was hilarious that was it. And then it became a joke. I remember seeing people joke about it on comedy shows on TV. There was that fake tourist Australian ad thing that went
dog on the fucking tucker box!
box! And I just thought it was, and people still send me that video.
That's a good video.
For me, it's amazing. Nimbin cops it. But no, the whole thing that it's right between the 2 biggest cities in the country where everybody's going to stop. The whole thing is that there's the poem and what it's about the guy with the bad luck the day and everything goes wrong and then the dog takes a dump on his tucker box. And Australia as a culture went, this guy had a shit day and everybody's laughing about it. Let's erect a statue.
To his shit day.
Yeah. Just to keep making fun of the poor bastard. Yeah. On the main thoroughfare between Melbourne and Sydney. I think that's so quintessentially Australian. That we should celebrate it. And then a couple of years ago, because we were stopping past, there's so many Ablaze stickers at that freaking truck stop. And we always take the photo. We've taken photos with different poses. There was one where they were like dragging me away from it and all this funny stuff. We play it up a lot. Yeah. Then a couple of years ago, it got damaged when someone ran up, threw a chain around it and tried to drag it away, not realizing how solid the friggin' thing is. But what they managed to do was they pulled the actual dog in the tucker box off the top and smashed half of it on the fountain part. Yeah. And then bailed when they realized that it was far too heavy for their car to tow it. Wow. There was this big uproar. We were getting tagged, me and the band were getting tagged multiple times a day, people thinking that we were going to come for blood. So we hammed it up and we're like, right, get us a name. Let's go. But a couple of fans and a couple of friends said, hey, why don't you reach out? Because you guys have kind of started something here. And the official, I guess, person associated with the dog on the tucker box is Andrew Swift, the country musician. But we've basically decided that we're his competition. I have no idea if he's aware of it. But I'm coming for you, Swift. But
someone needs to tag this on Andrew Swift's social media.
Well, what ended up happening was that a bunch of people said, hey, why don't you reach out to the dog people? And say, hey, can we do fundraiser? Because the thing got carted off to Sydney and they were going to repair the statue and fix her up. Apparently the dog's a female. And I contacted the Gundagai Shire Council and said, hey, we're an Australian rock band. We've got a bit of a thing with our fans where we always take photos with the dog. We're shattered about what's happened. Is there something that we can do to help? And they basically said, well, we're actually throwing a massive festival the day that the statue comes back. Do you guys want to play?
Oh, sweet.
myself, the singer and the lead guitarist, we drove up there and we did an acoustic gig with Andrew Swift as well. So and we were the ones that went on last, so we win. But we played a gig at the Dog on the Target Box, and it was ridiculous that it even happened. We met all these awesome people there, and it was a really, really fun day. And now we have to take that photo. We took one 2 weeks ago, and we were playing.
That's awesome.
It always gets a big reaction from our fan base as well. So
that's awesome.
So speaking of your fan base and professional circles and stuff, who do you guys have mentors?
In terms of the band or the?
Oh, I reckon you could probably yourself. You could probably go in both. You could talk about wildlife stuff and the band, and Sarah, you can tell us about your mentors as well.
Yeah, I mean, for the band stuff, it's really been just friends in the industry that have done things over the year. I mean, it's for both people that have done stuff before you that can give you advice and stuff like that. Like a friend of ours, Brad, who's currently helping book our Europe tour and stuff, was in a band called Massive that toured around Australia for a long time, and has helped us with so much over the years. In terms of wildlife stuff, I mean, I kind of just came into it from my own point of interest. So I didn't really know about things like the VHS and stuff like that until I went to my first expo, which was probably my late teens, early 20s. So a lot of my kind of mentorship has happened, I guess, on the fly. You know, whether it was, Graham, who ran the Birds of Prey Centre that I volunteered with, or Adrian Sheriff with the demo stuff over in Adelaide, who's always helped me with questions and things like that and been a really cool mentor for that, down to just honestly just reading. I mean, nowadays it's a bit rough, but 5-6 years ago, reading Facebook groups on different species and different conversations about different things. I've learnt heaps from watching conversations that you two were in.
Oh God,
really?
Observations and captive stuff and things like that, and then listening to you guys' podcast or the Aussie Wildlife Show and things like that, and just trying to absorb that kind of information like that, because as you know, a lot of herpers will either are happy to talk to you for years and have no idea what they're talking about, or are really knowledgeable and might give you a 2-line answer every 6 months. So it's been pretty tricky, especially because the stuff like the small skinks.
Yeah.
Not many people keeping it. So I've got a few people that have really answered a lot of my questions, like Danny Brown and Gary Stokes, and that have helped with a bunch of that sort of stuff over the years. But both of whom aren't keeping them now anyway. But but even friends like Jason McKellar with Jurassic Jungle, and we've been friends for many, many years now, because he's kept so much over such a long period of time, has always been happy to help me with the stupid questions, the bloody blind panics my anxiety go into, especially this year when I started breeding a lot more egg layers. I can't handle it. Live bearers, please. Be the babies, none of this bullshit in the middle.
There's a lot of it's funny, like in Vic, that despite the difficulties of the schedules down there, there's quite a lot of people that keep a lot of species of skink and pygopods and little dragons and geckos and stuff like that. It is very niche, but there is quite a lot of people doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about you, Sarah?
Yeah, well, I don't know, because I'm like, I never set out to be a keeper or anything. I just sort of found myself doing it and went, you know what? Fuck yeah, I kind of really like this. And so it's just been really talking to a lot of the people around me, my co-workers, my boss, and my friends. Like, we've built up a really good network of, I say, the animal friends, where, we'll sit there, we'll trade jokes and memes and stuff and talk a lot of shit between us all, but it's a lot of the second you're like, oh hey, I'm having this thing, or does anyone know about this, and everyone will jump in and be like, oh, this, or oh, maybe try reaching out to this person who knows this. And it's just, I don't know, I feel like we've built up a really nice like little knowledge sharing network, because I find a lot of the time people do tend to try and like gatekeep knowledge almost, and it's just like, I don't understand why, but
because it makes them feel important.
Yeah, well, that's stupid. Honestly.
I don't disagree with you, but that's one of the reasons people are afraid to share things sometimes, because it means that people have to go back to those people to get that information, rather than just sharing it in a public way that anyone can go up to it and refer to it without having to ask for it. You know, it's a silly way of being in a lot of ways. I think it's better to share. So. Yeah,
definitely. And because then, like, you don't know what you don't know too. And so, like, you might be like, oh, yeah, I'm starting out with, like, this new species or something, and, like, I've done this. And then someone will be like, oh, actually, you know, like, I've kept that, and I found this. And, like, you can just learn so much by just talking to people, you know, making those connections and just being open.
Yeah. And that gatekeeping also leads to, you know, issues. So many people nowadays go, oh, these people come in for 5 seconds and they read a couple of things and they think they're experts on everything. Yeah, we end up with people that are sitting at the top of a Dunning-Kruger graph because there's so many people that haven't wanted to share information. Yeah. And it's, well, I mean, honestly, one of my biggest mentors has been that Guide to Keeping series that I think, Scott, you might have done 1 or 2 of them. And I practically slept with the Danny Brown's lizard bobble under the pillow for a couple of years.
That's not a joke.
Yeah. All that information being available on a range of species, not just beardies and.
Well, it's funny, like the history of that publication was, you know, we started that in 2009, I think it was. We started sort of working on them, and then, you know, Ty was the one that linked me in with Danny to start that off, and we had the meeting, and basically it was, right, well, Danny's doing the lizard ones, but we need frogs, turtles, pythons, lapids, and colubrids. And so Adam Elliott and myself, because we'd sort of kept a lot of those as well as a shitload of lizards as well, it was like, well, who's going to do what? And so Adam decided to do turtles and pythons, and I said, right, I'll do the lapids and the frogs. And, you know, we put it out there because a lot of the information that was out there at the time was either it was one or two places. It was either in obscure journals, in places, you know, herp club journals that weren't online that you couldn't really source, or you were using, you know, books like John Weigel's great little book on the care of Australian reptiles in captivity. The problem with that was, though, is that was written at the end of the mid 80s, and so it was very dated in regards to advancements in the hobby, and so it took a lot, but, you know, we basically put out something that was more relevant to the time. And, you know, now the whole reason for doing the Australasian Lapids book was for that same reason. It needed to be significantly updated, and we've decided to go a different route with regards to that and use a different publisher. So.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that like the skink book, for example, and then talking to people, and that combination was the reason I was lucky enough. There was a picture you threw up earlier of the Bougainville's skinks.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, there they are. I mean, this is a skink that's pretty common in pretty much all the places it's found. But such an interesting little species. They're gorgeous when they're babies. They're still very pretty when they're adults. They're so keen to bite you for a species that small. But there really wasn't. I mean, there were 1 or 2 or 3 Larista, two that are on book in Victoria, and no one had them. And then from looking for them, and all the other small skink species that were on license in Victoria, like the Pseudomoyas and stuff, that are just, who knows if anyone's ever got any, but finding people who had them, and then somebody in South Australia said, I'm getting a permit for them. Would you like to contribute? And ending up with a bunch of them, and then reading the skink book and ideas of doing stuff through Danny's experiences there, and then talking to Gary in South Australia stuff led to me, you know, trying some stuff with my setup that was kind of a cross between what everybody had recommended. And then, they're managing to just randomly not only breed them, but breed them in situ in the enclosure.
Yeah.
The enclosure, it's, a lot of my small skinks and stuff like that are in 50-something litre UV resistant tubs that came from Masters before it shut down.
Yeah.
And, with, I've kind of stuffed around with the lids and put mesh in and stuff like that. But there's about 10 centimetres of substrate of sand and cocoa peat, and then an actual plastic tub that's buried down to the level of the substrate with a hole burnt in it with a soldering iron. And that's just got a bit of extra cocoa peat and a little bit of sphagnum in it just to keep it a bit moist.
Yeah.
And some flat bits of rock around and some bark and stuff like that. And I ended up with these skinks coming out and basking all the time because they felt safe enough to do it. And then when they bred in the enclosure, no additional heat, nothing like that, and found all the eggshells in that little tub, to the point that people that had helped me get the skinks said to me, hey, hang on, how did you breed them? And I was then able to pass that information back.
Yep.
And I mean, I don't, outside of myself, I don't know who's actually still got them, but I'm also going to start trying them. If I can get my numbers up a little bit more, I want to try them outside as well. I've successfully managed to breed the garden skinks outside. Like, that's not a massive achievement, but if I can get them and the delicates and these guys just breeding in situ because the setup works for them. Yeah. Because I'm not going for a 100-litre tub looking for garden skink eggs. I'm going to tear the thing apart.
We saw when we were in Germany, we went over to a few collections over there, and interestingly enough, we were there and we were looking at some lay boxes sitting inside enclosures, and I said, "What's the go with that?" And they're like, "Oh no, we just incubate the eggs inside the enclosures." Yeah. Because at the end of the day, right, they still have a lay box that sits in there. But they're of the opinion that if you're keeping the animal correctly, you should be able to breed them in the enclosure at those temperatures. The snake will choose the appropriate temperatures for them to breed in, and next thing you know, they're putting out babies. So it's one thing to see, hard-shell geckos or things like bougainvilles and stuff like that breeding in enclosures. Whole nother thing to see things like taipan breeding in an enclosure. Yeah. So it was pretty cool, and an interesting way of keeping, in the sense that, rather than keep the animals in such a way that the enclosure is suitable for actually the reproduction of the animal, probably not necessarily as crazy as it sounds.
Yeah. And like the damp hides, I use them for all the pygos because they use them to shed. The second they start going white, they'll bury themselves immediately. And the difference between having a damp hide and not having a damp hide is finding that skin nicely around the bottom of the grass clump, the same way they do in the wild, and finding a skin explosion across the enclosure. And then all the small skinks as well, giving them the chance to get in there. They spend so much time buried in wet spots under rocks. Giving it to them in captivity seemed like a no-brainer.
Yeah, well, like, it ties back in with what I was saying earlier too, where it's like, look at the animal you're keeping and then go look at its ecology and everything, and like, because weirdly, if it survives like that in the wild, that'll
Yeah, that's what we always say. You can learn so much from the ecology of the animal as opposed to just sticking it in a tub and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
So where do you guys go? Where do you guys go when you need inspiration? Where's your happy place?
Besides the dog in the tackle box.
Well, look, honestly, a drive out to, if I get to go walk around Plenty Gorge again, or heading to a couple of places in northern Victoria where I enjoy herping, even if it's somewhere I've been to a dozen times. And there's a particular spot where I saw my first and second Victorian Murray carpets in the wild that is a nice special spot for me. Also because there's shinglebacks and barbata everywhere, which are two of my favourite places. Also, the Northern Vic special. But it's places like that where I can go there a million times and it doesn't bother me. It's a beautiful spot, and that's kind of where I prefer to go.
Yeah, I like the beach.
Yeah.
I grew up down on the coast, so it's just like nice and like grounding, just listening to the waves and stuff like that, and watching the birds and all that shit.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. What's the one thing people are surprised to find out about you guys?
probably what I do for a job. Tiny little thing, and then I'm like, yeah, I breed funnel webs. I play with them at my job, whatever.
I think that people are surprised when they find out I'm a drummer and that I can string a sentence together for the most part. No, I mean, mostly when I talk to reptile people and they go, so what do you keep? And I tell them this stuff. The amount of people that are not aware that there are actually people that are interested in those little skinks running around outside, or, the Victorian stuff. It's not all about stuff from North Queensland or WA or stuff like that. Some of the stuff that we get around here is really cool.
Definitely.
I mean, even with the frogs, the great bards are awesome. I've got white lips, which are a stunning species. But also, perrins, which are, despite the fact that no one on Facebook seems to be able to friggin' ID them, they're a gorgeous piece. And my favourite, who was sitting right, but the only herp that's actually inside the house, Rocky River frogs.
Yeah,
they are
so
adorable. The little call that sounds like the filter's broken, and the males. I don't know if they're doing it anymore, but for the last couple of months, the second the lights go out, the males have all just gone
bright
yellow. The lazuri. They're just, honestly, out of all of them, I'm like, man, these things that are basically small brown frogs are easily my favorite out of the 6 frog species we've got.
The interesting thing about lasers is the fact that there's, niche partitioning within the ecology of the species, right? The females tend to live further up the bank and they're living in the forest, whereas the males are right down on the Rocky River itself.
Yeah.
So they don't actually compete against each other for the most part. They're amazing little frogs.
Oh, they're good. I cannot wait to give them. I mean, I've got 6 of them, I think. And I wouldn't mind, because I've only got 2 girls, so I wouldn't mind picking up a couple more. But I want to give them a really big enclosure and set it up with a low water level and get some big river rocks, because I've noticed now they've got a nice clean enclosure. I've changed all the water, everything. When the water got down to about that high and all the big river rocks on the bottom were sticking out, they were having the time of their lives.
Yep.
All of them. And you see it in the wild too. There's one frog sitting on every rock. So if I can give them a bunch of big river rocks sticking out of the water, a low water level that I can maintain, give them 2/3 of the enclosure like that, and then a land area where they can wedge themselves under a piece of bark during the day or something like that, they're going to be so happy with their enclosure. And I'll see all my little bright yellow dots sitting on them, making their little bubbling noises because they haven't got that throat pouch. And honestly, when I've got a little species like that that's that rewarding to keep, I'm like, bugger it, give them the biggest enclosure I can find.
Yep.
And it's something really nice to look at too when you do it up. You would see it in the wild.
That's my favorite thing too. I love setting up a really nice naturalistic enclosure. That's probably one of my favorite parts of my job, is setting up all the display enclosures and just being all yeah, all right, how can we do this so it looks like we've just taken a chunk of outside and put it in a little glass box. So rewarding. And
I haven't got the patience for it half the time, as much as I want to. So I will be giving her an exoterra, a couple of sheets and moths, and go on, party on.
So the thing too that you can keep with those as well during the day is you could keep tympanum. Your Lamprey tympanum do fine in with them. And you can
try and eat the males.
Nope.
Cool, because I've got 5 tympanum too, so there you go.
You could do tympanum with them, and you could also, and if you're keeping things like growling grass frogs or aria or something like that, you can keep koi with them.
I was just going to say, we used to have water skinks in with perrins and white lips.
Yeah. I'd love to put the perrins in with. I think the perrins and the tympanum would be good. I'd love to have growlers, let alone put them in with anything. Growlers are probably a top species for me. I love it because they're. For Melbourne, they're one of those species that is...
Mary Creek specials, mate.
Mine just went straight into the gutter then.
Brown grass frogs are they're such an awesome species, and I'm really desperate to get my hands on. They are one of those things where...
They used to be really common, eh? You know that, don't you? They used to be a very easy species to get your hands on. Now they seem to be a little bit more difficult. But
do OCD reptiles have them?
I don't know. Not sure.
There's a few people. Look, I know a couple of people down here that have got them privately.
Yeah.
But it's just the getting them to breed thing that's they're not, Aurea breed like rats.
Yeah, well, they breed. Growlers are the same. They're a little bit more finicky, but not much. So,
hopefully, someone crack. I mean, that's the thing too. They're frogs. One person cracks them for one season, and everybody's going to have 5.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the ones in captivity are Raniformis major or Raniformis raniformis too. I suspect the ones in South Australia are probably Raniformis major, and the ones that being kept in Victoria, raniformis.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
If there are any books that that you guys have sort of helped you along the way, what would be your top favourite 3?
Besides the ones that you sleep with.
This is where we plug you guys, yeah?
No, not at all. Not at all.
You choose the books that you like.
Yeah, look, those Guide 2 books, the complete field guide books have been a big help. I mean, just honestly looking at the pretty pictures, that works for me. And any of the other kind of interesting books that kind of touch behavior. One that I read I've got one called something about the night shift, and it's mostly about bats.
Yeah,
and it's just bats by region, different behaviors. Just flicking through this book and going, I knew none of this at all, and just being absolutely fascinated. And I've got a couple of others, like one's called The Secret Life of Australian Carnivorous Marsupials and stuff like that. Yeah, there's just so many interesting little things. But even like the what lizard is that and what snake is that? I went through a period of time, I mean, I still do now, but during COVID, I just started collecting books en masse and got that What Lizard Is That book, and happened to be flicking through and realized that I had absolutely no idea about the giant cave geckos and stuff having that little extra pad on the tail. And so I was like, I've just completely missed this fact.
They use it too, eh?
Yeah. I'd love to get giant caves at some point, but I know I'm going to need room and stuff like that.
Don't let, as much as it's funny, don't let them bite your ear.
No, hell no. I got a bite. I completely literally did this to a ringtail gecko and was surprised at how hard that bit. I've got no interest in getting done by a giant cave.
Pterodactyls do suck when they bite. That is for sure. I've been nailed by all 3 species.
Bingo.
Cavaticus suck, Australis suck, and Lindery suck. They all suck.
The older I get, the more I like my skin where it's supposed to be.
That's fair. Do you have any books?
What about yourself, Sarah?
I don't know. I'm like that one I got you for Christmas the other year, the angry book about the Murray-Darling. What was that called?
Oh yeah, it's a book about basically it's a little bit political, but it's about the complete mismanagement of the Murray-Darling Basin. It was written by someone who was a lawyer in the Royal Commission into what the hell happened with the Murray-Darling Basin Authority, and it's just, you kind of read through it, you start getting mad. I'm not particularly political, and you're reading it and going, what the hell is this? And knowing, this was all in the wake of when it all kind of came up with the Menindee Lake stuff and the fish die-offs and stuff like that. I think I was writing an article for a blog at work and kind of stumbled onto it, and Sarah found a book and gave it to me for Christmas, and yeah, we both had a read of it, and it's fascinating, the mismanagement.
Sort of stuff you don't want to know, but you want to know.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So while we're at it, after checking out Ablaze, obviously, what 3 bands do you recommend our listeners have a listen to?
Oh God. Look, there's
do you recommend your mates?
Well, yeah, of course. One of the things, it's rock. If you're a rock fan, I mean, one of the biggest issues we have is the amount of people that think that all the good rock happened in the 80s and that's it. The music is still around. It's just nowadays it's not getting radio support. It's still around. It's still, especially in Australia, it's world class. So there's bands like Dangerous Curves and Wicked Things, and there's a band out of Sydney called Big Red Fire Truck, which are awesome. And then even bands over in Europe where there was this whole new wave of classic rock movement that's still kind of going strong. It has festivals and radio stations and stuff dedicated to it, where there's bands like the New Roses and Massive Wagons and Those Damn Crows and all these bands that are playing the style that people love, but it's just not the same 3 albums they've been listening to since 1986. It's there. But unfortunately, if fans of that style of music don't start kind of looking for it and finding it and supporting it, it will die. Because other scenes, like, whether it's death metal or indie stuff or whatever it's always been kind of underground, and everybody's kind of always helped hold it up because they know that scene will disappear if they don't. Whereas because rock had such commercial success for a while, everybody goes, oh, all the good stuff's on, insert rock radio station here. And then it's not on those because
it's the same 3 songs.
Yeah, it's the same bands and it's all American stuff and that. And, with Australian music, once you've got AC/DC and Jimmy Barnes and Cold Chisel and Midnight Oil and all those ticked off, you've pretty much hit your local quota and focus on the international stuff. So
they might throw a bit of Jets in occasionally, or Midnight Oil, something like that.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. we played with the Screaming Jets a few years ago. They're awesome.
Oh, wow.
And then got drunk. I was out for a few months later, out for like a birthday pub crawl, and I think they'd played a show that night, and half of them walked into a rock bar here in Melbourne where we'd ended up, and I'd been getting bought beers across about 6 bars for the last 6 hours. And David Gleason and Kingy walked in and looked at me and went, "You're from Ablaze." We're like, "Yeah, what are you doing? It's my birthday." And they're like, "Ha!" And then they got me smashed.
Fair enough. All right. So, did you name us 3, or you just 3?
I named it 7. I think.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That sounds good.
Fully answered.
Excellent. So, what bit of advice would you guys give to a new keeper?
Morphs of shit. No. No.
Talk to people.
Yeah.
I think too. Try and learn from as many people as you can, and
Yeah, I mean, don't let trends in the hobbies and things like that influence the kind of things that you need to keep. I've had a few people refer to, not necessarily at me directly, but refer to some of the species that I love keeping as low-tier herps to keep and stuff like that. And I'm very much of the opinion of there's no low-tier species, there's just low-tier keepers.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in garden skinks, if you're interested in all the different ways that marbled geckos can look, or you think that thick tails are the cutest reptile, and it doesn't matter if they're common, it doesn't matter if they're not worth a lot of money. If you love it, if you enjoy keeping it, someone going, "Oh, but that's not as cool as a whatever," tell them to piss off. Keep whatever you want. That's how we end up not losing. It's like, how long it's taken me to get my hands on friggin' barbata?
Mm-hmm.
Like, my God, they're awesome. My male's almost the size of a frilly, but it doesn't come in silkback and het for 2 heads and good credit score. It's infuriating, but it's like there's a lot of other stuff. If you're interested in that other stuff, seek it out, even if it's super hard to find. Help make it not hard to find.
I think too that also gels well with when people go, "Oh, I'm getting my first snake or my first lizard or my first whatever. What should I get? What's a good beginner animal?" And I don't think there's a good answer to that, because if you get something that you're told to get because it's apparently a beginner, if you're not into it, you're not going to look after it. You're not like you possibly could be doing, or you're not going to enjoy it as much. And like you said, you get what you enjoy. But so many of our guests have come back with that answer. So it's obviously something that the more experienced keepers, it weighs on their mind.
Yeah, because I've had that many people go to me, "Why are you keeping that?" Like, and there are people that are joking, and there are people that are not.
Yeah,
And like,
exactly.
Why would you? Or go, "Oh, I had some of these here. You can have them." When I put out things asking for a male eastern blue tongue, or when I was looking for blotchies once upon a time and things like that, people go, "Oh, you can have them. I don't want to be associated with this species because I want to be seen as higher than that." And you just go, "You're a moron."
What the fuck's wrong with a blotchy?
I think
nowadays everybody wants the bloody things, and the price went through the roof. But once upon a time, it was a low tip because you could find them walking through friggin' Eltham. and so it wasn't as cool. And it's that I hate that.
I think the other thing to remember is that it doesn't matter if you're really into morphs. That's okay. That's fine. Fill your fucking boots. Do everything you can to keep those animals the way that you want to keep them. And if you're trying to follow a particular line or a particular color mutation, that's awesome. But if you're also into something that's a little bit obscure, that's awesome too. Or if you don't want to keep what everyone else is keeping because you really like keeping that species, fantastic. But the most important thing is to keep the animals that make you happy, not what you think your mates think is going to be good. You know what I mean? Like, keep what you actually want to keep yourself.
Yeah. And stuff that you're willing to keep properly as well. Because if you can be passionate about a lace monitor, and if you shove it in a 4x2, you're still not gonna.
No. Laces are one of those real funny critters for me that I don't think a lot of people that keep them should be keeping them.
Yeah,
because they're big, they're intelligent, they deserve something of some size.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And yes, Reptiles Unlimited Barbata are definitely underrated. I completely agree that they are a great dragon and they're heavily underrated. They seem to like their insects a hell of a lot more than their veggies.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to Viticeps.
For me, I've had more success keeping them happy. I've kept them outside. I've kept them a few times over the years, and keeping them like frillies. I've had the big vertical branches, give them climbing room. I've got two at the moment, a massive male and a young one that I'm pretty sure is a girl. It's at that weird, awkward size. Yeah. It's hard to tell on every finger and toe cross that it's a girl. And just not keeping them like a central has had where I offer them greens, I offer them different things. They get crickets, they get dubia, they get black soldier fly larva, everything that I can hand them. And honestly, just experimenting with feeding them off tongs and stuff like that. My male was a psychopath when I got my hands on him.
Yeah.
Now runs up to me so I can hand feed him.
Yeah. They love locusts, so if you can get your hands on.
Yeah, I might have to try it. This one.
Locusts, they go fucking mental for.
Yeah, this one will just about vacuum. This one will about vacuum the house if I offer it dubia.
Yeah, the other thing that works really well for a lot of that stuff is light traps. So set up a light trap and collect some moths. Obviously, be careful that you're not collecting toxic moths. But certainly, around Melbourne, when you got the bogon moths coming through and they're everywhere, you can get big juicy feeds, and we just used to smash those into the enclosures for things. Used to work really well. The other one that they'll eat too is they like to eat flies.
Yeah.
So you can put a little bit of rotten meat in an outside pit and have the flies come to that, and then they'll come down and they'll be munching the flies.
Yeah. No, I tend to get the fly pupae for the frogs, and even some of the small dragons will jump through the air trying to catch the house flies and stuff like that. So it'd be cool to try that with the little barbata at least. But look, I want to
do it outside though. The stink ain't too flash.
Yeah. The light. I want to do the light trapping. We've got a hills hoist now that I can kind of hang it over, and just down the street from us is Greswell Forest. So I've plenty of stuff coming out of there, and provided I don't have a batter or 20 frogmouth crash into the bloody thing. I don't think people utilize that wild insects and stuff enough. I think everybody's terrified that it's going to give their animals worms and stuff like that. Like I'm really keen to give as much of a variety to my insect eaters as possible. Not just
like eater dragons on sand, mate. They can survive on sand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Controversy.
They've got they do have that ability, and it just means that the husbandry's got to be spot on. But at the same time, mixing up that diet is good, because each insect and each of those things have got different levels of phosphorus. They've got different levels of calcium. They've got different other nutrients that these things need for a healthy and balanced lizard. And I wonder if some of the species that are hard to breed might be missing something that's a dietary requirement that just isn't present in big numbers, either in dubia or crickets or mealworms or superworms or something like that.
Tell you what I fed our lizards on: legless lizards, dragons, skinks. The Vetafarm pellets for birds. I checked with Vetafarm before doing it. Yep, the flavoured pellets. And we bred everything on those pellets.
Yeah. Because I tell you that the legless lizards are the tricky ones, getting them to eat anything other than crickets.
Pygopods go nuts for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Seriously, in a bit of banana.
Yeah. I've managed to get the commons when I kept them in the past. I've had them do little bits of soft fruit and stuff like that. The westerns seem to have no interest.
Jam?
Yeah, they'll like jam, bit of jam.
Yeah,
Strawberry jam. Plum jam.
I've managed to get them interested in dubia. I occasionally, if I start them with a cricket, I can get them to take a couple of black soldier fly larvae, but they're usually not wrapped about it. But yeah, just trying to experiment with as many. I never really bought mealworms and stuff and superworms for everything. I've never really liked. Some of the stuff like tree skinks and stuff would shit them out whole. But now I've got the sugar gliders who mow through them.
Oh, they love them.
The other thing that's good though is set up a pit trap for wolf spiders.
Yeah, it's something I want to do.
Wolf spiders for
Sarah doesn't look happy at that.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I'm just like, wolf spiders are pets. They're not for feeding.
The only worry, someone told me once about wolf spiders potentially passing on some sort of lungworm or something to the pygos.
Yeah, there is a chance of some of those things that carrying parasites through and stuff like that. But there are lots and lots of spiders, lots and lots of different types. But they do like ground dwelling spiders. That's what they're designed to do, and they go mental for them too as well.
Yeah, that'd probably be a good way to kick them into breeding. We need to dump a couple of wolfies in there, and
if we're worried about parasites, we could just start breeding them.
That's what we need. Start breeding wolf spiders. Yeah.
It never ends, eh?
Never.
I think the adage is happiness is a pygopod with fucking legs hanging out their mouth.
Yeah.
So.
No doubt.
On that note, do you guys have any exciting projects you're working on?
I'm hoping to breed some new stuff this year. I'm hoping to really kick the gippies into overdrive, and I'm putting everything into breeding as many bloody dubia as possible over the next few months. When the season kicks off, I'll get breeding, and the Barbada's another one that I'm really keen to. I've also managed to breed the Tenotus Regis this year, so I'm kind of getting my numbers up a little bit. They are such a pretty little skink, and even I had a clutch out of the Queensland leopard skinks as well, and they're huge. I had no idea how big they were, and had a clutch, but she laid them like 3 days after they got off the plane. So that I think that mucked with them a bit. But those Queensland leopards, the size of them and the audacity of them, they are so friendly. They will meet me at the door. They will sit at the door like this. They won't jump out. Hand feed them. They could honestly take over as like the mini blue tongue pet that people pet in terms of skins.
100%.
They are that personable. And like the trees and the black rocks and stuff, they're good, but they're cats. In terms of, they're always just like, off, don't touch me. But the leopards, I have no doubt I'd have them out on my hand taking food.
I think Inornata are like that. And Aremia skincus are like that too. Richardsoni and fasciolatus and intermedius. I mean, there's a lot more intermedius than anything else. Well, most of the fasciolatus in captivity are actually intermediate.
Okay, it'll be interesting to see what mine are, but they're. We can only keep the one in Victoria. So whether they are is what they are. I'm pretty sure they're not broad-banded, so they're some variety of whatever came out of narrow-bandeds in that split.
Well, there was 4 species that came out of that split. So
but that's it. It's not like the schedules keep up with the splits. It's like those Datella. They're on as Varigata. They're not Varigata. Varigata are only the ones from WA now, aren't they?
Northern Territory West.
Oh, Northern Territory.
Midway through the Northern Territory West is Varigata, and then east of that is Versicolor.
Yeah, so they're Versicolor.
Yeah,
I'd put money on it, but they're either way. Those little the sand swimmers are. Everybody gave me the whole "it's another jar of dirt" thing.
No.
They're awesome.
The second the lights are off, or the second that they think I've got crickets in the bucket, they just pop out of the dirt like daisies. Like
and they're fucking psychotic. The way I remind, they're like the graboids out of Tremors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just pop out. And the thing too, it's, I know that people go, oh yeah, they're built quite smooth so they can go through the sand. You can't grip them.
Yeah.
You're so freaking slippery. But they're so much fun.
Yeah, no, they're beautiful.
Cool species. I'm really hoping. I haven't bred them yet, but I've got a funny feeling all 4 of mine might be girls. So I might have to go get it because they seem to have quite a weight for females. So I'm hoping that I can, secure a spare male off a mate and, see what happens.
Just the only thing with them, you just got to watch the weight. Just make sure that they don't get too heavy. So, they do have a tendency to, because they're, like a lot of sort of semi-arid species, they do have a penchant for retaining fat for the leaner times, and so they will sort of retain fat quite easily on them. So
yeah.
All righty. So we have a couple of questions that we always ask. So we'll do the roughish one first, and then we'll put you under the microscope. But probably this one's more directed at you, Sarah. Have you guys ever witnessed or experienced misogyny throughout your career? And in your opinion, what could be done to help stamp it out?
Honestly, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a woman in the industry who hasn't. It's just, I don't think it's always, it's not overt and it's not always, intentional, but a lot of the time it's just, women, we're not always included in the conversation, particularly when it comes to stuff like reptiles and spiders and whatnot. It's like, oh, but you're a girl, why would you be into that? And it's like, okay, but I am. And there's things like everyone will just assume Dan knows more about everything, and he knows a lot more about a lot of things, but there are some things that I know more about too. But it's just a lot of the time you're not getting included in the conversation to begin with. Or things like, assumptions about what you can and can't do, people being all like, oh, I'll ask this person to lift something because it's just assumed you can't. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I could bench press them, but okay. Yeah, and stuff like I've had it once where somebody asked a question and it was about a keeping thing. I answered, and then they were like, oh, what do you think? And the other guy said the exact same thing I did. And he was like, okay, cool. And I'm like, am I fucking invisible here?
Yeah.
It happens a lot. So just, talk to women, include us, and actively include us, not just oh yeah, they're there, they're a part of things. It's no, what do you think? What's your opinion? Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, so that's the roughish question. I mean, we've got that question for the people that don't realise. We want to sort of highlight that there is. It's all well and good to talk about the nice stuff in the hobby and all the rest of it, but having that conversation that is a little bit uncomfortable, that does highlight that for people, maybe hopefully makes people sort of sit back and realise, hey, am I inadvertently, because I don't think for the most part it's deliberate. I think most of the time it is inadvertent. Am I being inadvertently misogynistic? And if that's the case, maybe try and be a little bit more active in regards to making sure that you're not that way, So
Absolutely.
Cool.
Okay, so here's 60 seconds under the basking spot. Are you guys early birds or night owls?
Night owl.
Both.
How do you do both?
Depends on the day. I'll be up till on one night and then up at 5 the next day.
Well, that's me because it's I not out of choice, but between a band and my animals and work and everything like that, I have to be both. And when people go, how do you do it? I don't sleep.
Yeah. Would you rather have more time or more money?
More money at this point in this economy.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, with
no,
more
hey,
money,
that's
with
fine.
my time.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you'll get old and you'll answer it the other way. Sweet or savoury?
Savoury.
Savory.
Tidy or messy?
Messy.
Tidy.
Driver or passenger?
Driver.
Passenger.
Is it because Dan doesn't like your driving? That's why I'm the passenger.
I straight up don't have my full license because driving is terrifying. And I hate it.
And between band touring and the demo world, I am anything less than a 2.5 hour drive and I don't blink. So
that's a Victorian thing, though. Hey, up here, he was like, hours of work away when he first moved up. And I'm like, fuck that. And he goes, what do you mean, fuck that? That's not that long. And I'm like, yes, it is. And then since living in Queensland for 20 odd years, he has sort of dropped the time away down to like, yeah, no, fuck that. I'm not doing that.
No, I love a long drive with the playlist on, especially going up north and just, driving along, listening to music, keeping my eye out for any bub artists sitting on fence posts. Like,
oh, yeah, not in suburbia. Totally get that. But in suburbia, no. Us Queenslanders don't push past 30 minutes usually. See the movie or read the book?
Book.
Good answer. Do you prefer a backyard barbecue or dinner at a restaurant?
Barbecue.
It depends on what the food
You're
is.
a foodie.
Hey,
Smoked steak in a jar.
No wrong answers here, Sarah.
Accomplice or ringleader?
Ringleader.
I don't know. I guess that means I'm an accomplice. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't know, you'll definitely be an accomplice. Savings or spendings?
Savings.
So trying for savings.
And does pineapple go on a pizza?
No, it's racist.
It's delicious.
Sarah, you are 100% right.
Dan, you totally got it.
You fucking
no. Worst place to put the pineapple. You're ruining chicken.
So good.
A bird.
If I put pineapple on, I don't have to share.
Right. You're making up the spare bedroom tonight, bro.
That's the way it works here.
So what's the one takeaway you'd like the audience to get from this episode?
Bugs are cool.
What was that?
Bugs are cool.
Bugs are cool.
Yep, there are plenty of smaller reptiles and things to keep that are awesome and rewarding and that you can keep far easier and better in than the big stuff, and it's worth a look.
Fantastic.
Is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to say before we close out?
I think he's talked for long enough.
It's like listening to you and I.
Ablaze's new single is now out on Spotify.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, no, we released a new single that's doing really well and starting to get radio play in other countries and things. It'd be really nice to get some in Australia. New single, Next Train Out, a music video on YouTube as well. Check it out if you like a bit of Aussie rock, and we've got enough variety in our back catalogue. There's something for everybody. So check us out. And if you're in Melbourne, come and see us live next Friday night, April 11 at the Northcote Social Club.
Buy some merch.
Sweet.
Buy some merch.
Buy some merch. Yes. You have one more question.
Huh?
You have one more question.
Weird. Oh, shit. Where can our listeners find you?
You know, the important question.
I thought we just said that, didn't we?
No.
Yeah, just Instagram at happymissbright.
Yep.
For all my reptile stuff, I post on The Lizard Shed. There's a Facebook page and a Instagram that's at The Lizard Shed. For band stuff, everything is at Ablaze Band or ablazeband.com.au. My personal one is mango_Ablaze.
Perfect.
Sweet. I'd just like to say something before we close out. I want to say a massive thank you to Chris Applin, Darren Whitaker, and Justin Smith for helping me with the software here that we're bumbling through.
I don't think it's gone too badly, to be fair. We're 2.5 hours in already.
The comments stopped a while ago, so I reckon we put everyone to sleep.
Oh, every fucking chance of that. That's all right. Fuck 'em. I mean, thank you so much, our wonderful audience.
First and last podcast live.
I keep forgetting that we can't edit this shit out. That's all right. Anyway.
Thanks so much for listening to the Cold Blooded Contributions podcast. The Cold Blooded Contributions podcast is proudly sponsored by Midwest Tongs. For over 40 years, the Midwest Tongs team has provided the highest quality snake handling tools made in the USA, made by professionals for professionals. Visit Midwest Tongs at www.tongs.com. A massive thank you to our guests, Dan and Sarah. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk to us. Usually we'll be releasing our podcast monthly, so make sure you follow us so you don't miss out on an episode. Give the Cold Blooded Contributions podcast a like on Facebook so you don't miss any updates, giveaways, or guest announcements. The links discussed in today's podcast will be in the show notes. And remember, always trust your creativity. It's intelligence having fun.
Thanks very much, everybody in the chat.
Thanks, guys.
We will we'll leave you with it. Thanks very much, guys. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks for having us.